Chapter 51. Luo Bing probably confirmed Sky's identity. That is alien. If the alien genes hidden in the body are considered half-aliens, his weakness just now can be explained. It's just that this is just speculation, and further tests of Sky's blood are needed. You said I might be a member of the Inhumans. But I don't have any special feelings, and I don't have any super ability. Does my computer skills count as a special skill? Sky had heard of the Inhumans from the Rising Tide organization, and he was puzzled at the moment. After all, Luo Bing's serious expression didn't seem like a joke. You're just not awakening yet. Also, regarding your background, I did not find any information about your parents in the S.H.I.E.L.D. files. It's not normal, Luo Bing said. Didn't you also find your parents? Sky rolled his eyes speechlessly. I didn't say I was normal either. Luo Bing shrugged. Anyway, it's getting late today, you rest first, and tomorrow I'll take you to find Genma to check on your body. Luo Bing turned to look at the time and the food on the table. It's a pity for these meals. After being repeatedly tortured by the evil witch, and finally freed, they can't enter my stomach now. Fate is not fair. Luo Bing made an excuse to sneak into the bedroom. Even Sky, Luo Bing would not let her know his weakness until the problem of this body was solved. The little beauty looked at a table of food, holding her cheeks, and lost her appetite by herself. I'm not willing to throw it away, after all, it's the result of my own hard work, so I can only put it in the refrigerator. In the room, Luo Bing folded his hands together and launched Yang Cheyu's prayer. Ah, the almighty Yang Cheyu, bless me tonight to obtain an ability that can solve my current physical condition, thank you very much. After reading, he took out a pack of cigarettes from his pocket, offered it up, and clapped his hands. The ceremony is over. He just bought the cigarettes. Luo Bing has no habit of smoking, he doesn't even know how to smoke. Originally wanted to buy incense, but unfortunately the supermarket downstairs does not have it. The ability Yang Cheyu's prayer focuses on making a wish. As for whether it works or not, Luo Bing doesn't know, he hasn't really tried it yet. After the symbolic ceremony, Luo Bing picked up the cigarette on the table and took a sip. The spicy feeling reached his throat, causing him to cough a few times, then snuffed it out. The throat of a person who has never smoked is repulsive to the nicotine in tobacco. It was like that at the beginning. Later, after the voice got used to it, it would not work without this stuff, commonly known as addiction. Luo Bing just tasted it subconsciously, and then gave up decisively. Not fun at all. Looking at the time, it is now 10 o'clock at night, and most of the people are basically asleep. Luo Bing didn't plan to go to bed so early, he seemed to be used to going to bed late, probably because he had to wait for his abilities to refresh every day. Turning on the computer, Luo Bing started playing the game. He frowned after killing a few dungeon boss monsters in seconds. So boring. His juggernaut is already in a divine outfit, and he can beat any boss with a single knife. This is simply too boring, and there is no fun at all. Follow the mixed teammates to know how to shout 666. Maybe this is the daily boring of the big boss. Very helpless. Luo Bing closed the Drop City, looked at Sunteng's latest game, and clicked the download out of boredom. At the same time, he clicked on the page of Sunteng Dual Landlord, played a free hand in Spring, and won more than 20 yuan in phone bills. After 20 minutes, the game download and installation are over. This is a game called League of Legends. According to the introduction, it is an absolutely fair competitive game. However, after Luo Bing entered, he found out that this map is almost a brother of Dota 2 that he had played before. Hua Ma Teng is still a showman, he can always crush the original on the road of plagiarism. Luo Bing entered the training camp, and according to the little assistant's prompts, he manipulated the ice arrow to frantically fight the mobs. Before the tutorial was over, he knew the general gameplay, so he simply quit and clicked on the real-life battle. Welcome to Summoner's Rift. 20 minutes later, Luo Bing's Yi successfully pushed off the local crystal and won. It's pretty fun. Luo Bing touched his chin and moved on to the next round. Buzz. The communicator on the wrist vibrated, and someone sent a contact request. It's Peter. Few people know Luo Bing's contact information. At the moment Luo Bing didn't realize Peter's ability to speak, and soon he tasted the consequences. What's the matter? Peter, Luo Bing asked while playing the game. Brother Luo, I saw a strange big lizard when I was in action tonight. It was really big. I have never seen such a big lizard, and he is very strange. It has a human head. I call him Lizard. Man, I think that's a very apt name for it. Peter started, muttering a lot. Luo Bing. This kid is getting more and more talkative. Okay, what's the matter? Talk to people, Luo Bing asked again. Brother Luo, do you want to investigate with me? We haven't acted together for a long time. Peter on the other end of the phone scratched his head. Luo Bing is speechless. When have you been with the duo? You have a deep misunderstanding. I'm not free, I'm playing in the league, Luo Bing said. Oh, well then, Big Brother Luo is really amazing, the alliance must be a very strong organization, I really hope to join you in your actions, but I still can't get out of my way. By the way, I recently found a reporter at work, although the boss has a bad temper, the salary is still quite high. I will take some pictures of Spider-Man and send them to the newspaper boss. Haha, he never imagined that I was the Spider-Man he always hated. By the way, the place where I work is the Clarion newspaper, which is the largest local newspaper in New York. I was also scared at first, and that day. Luo Bing. Beep. After hanging up the communication, Luo Bing breathed a sigh of relief. Next time we meet, I will definitely ban him. Absolute. In the state of being addicted to the game, time is fleeting. Sign in successfully. Today's copy of the ability Unscaled Immortal Body has been delivered, please use it as much as you like. Luo Bing? Evil Door? The name of this power is so short. Asterisk. Chapter 52. Stainless immortal body. To be clear and unsullied, all things in this body are untouched, all dharmas retreat, all dharmas are empty, no self, no life, no sentient beings. Bodhi is not a tree, how can it cause dust? Luo Bing looked at the ability introduction, it seems that this time the ability is a bit special, and the correct way to interpret his ability is the ability from Otherworld. Ability is all kinds of strange, Luo Bing used to indulge in the pain of cats and dogs for a long time. The name of the power like this introduction, in addition to Beast Perception, this is the second one. Beast Perception is a very useful ability, and basically Luo Bing's metamorphosis started there. The dense golden light enveloped Luo Bing's body, Luo Bing felt that his whole body was soaked in warm water, and the tides came and went, constantly beating his body. At the same time, it was also transforming every cell in his body. Slowly, he actually fell asleep like this. At 7 o'clock in the morning, Luo Bing gradually opened his eyes and fell asleep in front of the computer desk yesterday. Generally speaking, lack of sleep and poor sleeping position will cause body aches and dizziness, but Luo Bing feels that he is in surprisingly good condition. The whole person is refreshed and full of energy. If I had to describe it in words, it would be best condition. Luo Bing is in this state every second now. The mind is clear, the mental state is full, and the whole body is full of energy. Luo Bing stood up, stretched out his body, and the sound of crackling beans came from his joints. He waved his fist, and the fist was strong and fierce. Besides, Luo Bing felt very light, so he tried to jump in place. Boom! A black shadow penetrated directly through the ceiling, rushing from the 3rd floor to the 7th floor rooftop, revealing a stunned head on the top floor. Earthquake! Help! Neighbors started yelling. Luo Bing glanced at the damage he had caused, was silent for 2 or 3 seconds, and said a word to go back. Everything is back to normal. After wiping off the unwarranted cold sweat, Luo Bing quickly took a sip of boiled water from 2008 to calm himself down. This year is 2008. Are you really a fairy? Wouldn't it be a fairy in myths and legends? After calming down, Luo Bing carefully observed his own changes. After confirming it again, he often let out a sigh of relief from roar. Although it was different from what he expected, it was enough to surprise him. No, it should be said to be ecstasy. First, after he became a Wushao immortal body, the most obvious characteristic was no need to take a shower anymore. Dirt immortal body does not stick to ashes, you can tell from the name. Well, that's not critical. The key is he has gotten more handsome. Wu Zhao immortal body removes impurities from Luo Bing's body. When people eat whole grains, there are bound to be impurities in their body. After being baptized by Wu Zhao immortal body, Luo Bing is so handsome that he doesn't even know how handsome he is. Anyway, he is handsome. The most important thing is that kind of spiritual energy, that temperament is really indescribable in words, just like a banished immortal. That temperament, that look, even the blink of an eye, is full of infinite charm. Luo Bing stood there whole, even though he put on a mentally retarded expression, his whole person was full of the charm of a supreme immortal. The body is also a golden ratio, with perfect 8-pack abs. I don't know if it was an illusion, but Luo Bing wanted to take a bite when he smelled his hands. It seems to be the same as the principle of Tang monk's meat, his body exudes an alluring smell. If the previous Luo Bing is compared with the current one, it is not comparable at all, and there is no negotiation on the direct kill. Now he is handsome, and miserable. If Luo Bing now publicly sells its own foot wash, a large group of people will surely break their heads. Compared with his handsomeness, his lifespan has increased by 3,000 years, his body is basically immune to all magical damage, and there is no need to mention that there is an extra guyu in the writing wheel. It doesn't matter if the strength is strong or not, being handsome is a lifetime thing. Sky, get up and kiss one, I'm going to do a test. Luo Bing knocked on the door of the beautiful roommate and knocked for a long time. Are you poisonous? The little beauty covered her head with a quilt and was abruptly woken up. Is this guy crazy? Get up and kiss one? Listen to what people say? What's the matter with us? When did you open up so much? You did open the door. Luo Bing was a little tired from knocking on the door. He controlled his strength very hard, for fear of accidentally knocking on the door. It seems that he needs some good practice on controlling power. No, go and kiss someone else, I'm not that kind of person. If you talk about it, I'll be angry. The little beauty didn't wake up, her face still had the air of getting up, and she covered her head with a quilt. Shy Red. Don't get me wrong, I don't mean anything else, I just want to do an experiment, no one else can do it, only you can do it. Luo Bing pursed his lips helplessly, very distressed. Others aren't aliens either. Luo Bing murmured in his heart. Sky, who was lying in bed, heard this, obviously misunderstood, and felt like he had eaten candy. Girls are shy, especially at this time. But as long as Luo Bing persists for a moment or two, maybe the door will open. But I almost forgot, there is still yesterday's food in the refrigerator, it's great, I don't need you Sky, it's great. Luo Bing excitedly ran to the living room and opened the refrigerator. Sky, play me? Still great? Come on, tell me what do you think? Luo Bing's idea was very simple. He picked up the leftovers that he put in the refrigerator yesterday with his chopsticks, tasted them one by one, and finally nodded with satisfaction. This nod is not an affirmation of the beautiful roommate's cooking skills. Rather, his body was already immune to alien DNA. From now on, there is no need to worry about his spatial ability being invalidated again. Sky silently dressed and opened the door and walked out, she was going to find the guy to settle the account. This guy is getting more and more arrogant every day. First of all, he spanked his own A, and he has been teasing himself erratically for the past 2 days. I really think I'm so annoying. Sky went out of the room and looked at Luo Bing's back who was eating. A sneer appeared on his face, and his right hand holding the pillow became harder. Luo Bing turned around when he heard the movement. Are you up? Snapped. The pillow fell to the ground, leaving Sky frozen in place. Asterisk. Chapter 53. What have you been grinning at me since just now? Are you sick? Luo Bing took a big mouth to deal with the food in front of him, took the time to glance at the beautiful roommate who was still holding his cheeks and smirking at him, and asked with a frown. It's okay, you eat, you continue to eat. Sky sucked the saliva that was about to flow out, and continued to hold his chin. Didn't you just want to do an experiment? You can experiment. I can do it. I can dedicate myself to scientific experiments, the little beauty continued. As if the sentence "I'm not that kind of person" just now didn't come out of her mouth. I just really got carried away with excitement. I apologize to you if you don't have s*x with each other. That sentence is very disrespectful to you. Luo Bing folded his hands in a serious apology. No, don't, I don't mind. I really don't care, we two are with whom, if you have any experiments, just come to me. I promise not to refuse in the future. Sky looked at the handsome face of the man in front of him, and his heart was drunk. Mom, how can there be such a handsome person? Handsome. Who gave me the courage to reject him just now? Kiss me, kiss, you come. Ha ha ha, as expected of my good brother, but no need, my experiment is over. Luo Bing touched Sky's head and put down his chopsticks. What? Brother. Wait. You're done experimenting? Who did you ask for the experiment? Why didn't you ask me, you liar, didn't you say only me can do it? Don't withdraw your hand, continue to touch my head, you feel so comfortable, and your hands smell so good. The little beauty blushed and lowered her head shyly. Luo Bing. What the FK? Is this not right? No, you will suffer. Luo Bing completely forgot how powerful he is to girls now. Even Sky, who has always been unfamiliar with men, can't stand it now. Cough cough. I didn't find anyone else, things are a bit complicated, so I won't explain it. Your head is a little hot, you should go take a bath and calm down. I'll take you to see Genma for a checkup later, Luo Bing said with an embarrassed expression. Oh. Are you going to wash together? I might be able to wipe your back or something. Sky asked in a low voice. No, no, I'm not Ash at all now, you go, Luo Bing laughed awkwardly. Okay then. Sky was a little lost and walked to the bathroom alone. What happened to her today? Shouldn't she be interested in me? Luo Bing touched his chin, lost in thought. Maybe an illusion. Isn't it the three major illusions in life? An hour later, Sky took a shower and changed her clothes, and her behavior was much more normal, but she seemed to be really uncomfortable, and she was a little weak when walking. You have been washing for a long time this time, and there is no hot water after washing, right? The equipment here is quite poor. I have made some money in the past few days. After the inspection for you, we will go to see the house. I want to buy a garden villa, Luo Bing said. Sky seemed to be silent for a long time and nodded. I'm going to take a shower too, soon, wait for me for a while, Luo Bing said, and walked towards the bathroom. Hey, don't go. Sky reached out to stop him. Anything else? Luo Bing turned around suspiciously. No. The water is cold, you can wash it at night, I'm afraid you catch a cold. Sky ruffled his hair, his expression a little unnatural. Luo Bing nodded and didn't go to the bathroom. It's not that he's afraid of catching a cold, but now that the weather is getting colder, he doesn't like taking cold showers. When Sky went to take a bath, Luo Bing had already learned the location of Gemma by phone. Luckily, she is not in Kun style at the moment. If the spatial coordinates are a plane that has been flying, it is really a bit difficult to handle. Unless he can see directly with his eyes, or he has a clear judgment on the speed and course of the plane, it is not easy to find a position. Phil Coulson's team doesn't have missions every day, at least they can take a day or two off every month when the world is at peace. But for the science duo, Gemma and Fitz, they like to be in the lab even when they're on vacation. Perhaps for them, doing all kinds of experiments is the best form of entertainment. Why are you building doors? Sky asked curiously, who had never seen Luo Bing's space ability. Do you know the random door of Tinkerbell? Luo Bing smiled mysteriously. You still build any door? Sky's eyes widened in surprise. You can also understand it this way, follow me. Luo Bing didn't explain much, but Tinkerbell's random door was a good way to hide his space ability. The two passed through the portal and went directly to the science laboratory of the S.H.I.E.L.D branch. Hi, Gemma, Fizz. Luo Bing made a move. Roar. Hi, Robin. Fitz turned his head to subconsciously greet Roar, but suddenly froze in place, and the green test tube in his hand suddenly fell to the ground. As for Gemma, she seemed to have been held back by someone using the immobilization technique, and she stared straight at Luo Bing with big eyes. Crack! The test tube fell to the ground with a crisp sound. Fitz woke up with a start, and came back to his senses, his expression exaggerated and his mouth grew. Oh my! Mr. Robin! Why do I feel that you are different? You have become so handsome. Strange. From a scientific point of view, your facial features haven't changed much from before, but why does it feel different? Fitz was puzzled. Fortunately, he is a man, at most he will be stunned, but Gemma by his side hasn't calmed down yet. Hi! Gemma shyly made a move to Luo Bing. Roar. Her reaction was sluggish for about 10 seconds. Fitz rolled his eyes and glanced at his partner, feeling strange. This is Sky, and these two are Fitz and Gemma, my colleagues. Luo Bing introduced each other separately. After that, Gemma took out a test tube and drew Sky's blood for testing. Everything went fast. As Luo Bing expected, Sky's blood has alien genes, and it is very pure, but such pure genes are generally impossible to awakening normally. unless it encounters stimulation or interference from foreign objects. Asterisk. Chapter 54. S.H.I.E.L.D's investigation of the Inhumans has been very fruitful so far. Generally speaking, Inhumans have two evolutionary ways. The first one is self-awakening. Definitely this kind of awakening has a very low chance, usually because something happens, such as the death of a loved one, or one's own life is threatened, awakening between life and death. Another is foreign object interference, which is also the most orthodox awakening method in the Cree experiment at the beginning. That is by Tarragon crystal. However, this kind of crystal, S.H.I.E.L.D, is only recorded in text materials now, and I have encountered real objects during missions, but the yin and yang errors were used by foreigners who have not yet been awakening. Anyway, S.H.I.E.L.D doesn't have this stuff anymore. At this stage, sky awakening is impossible. But she wasn't too disappointed, she didn't have any idea of sudden awakening ability. It's good to be a normal person. What's more, she is not ordinary, she is the world's top hacker. News of Stark being rescued alive spreads across the streets. Unexpectedly, the first thing he did when he came back drove all the news media crazy. This guy actually publicly announced the closure of his company's weapons development department. What is this concept? A company that makes weapons and munitions suddenly announced that it would close its weapons development department. What is it thinking? Crazy? What can you do if you don't make weapons? After the news came out, the stock of Stark Group fell all the way, and the investors abandoned their hands and turned off the shares. They agreed that Stark had gone crazy after being kidnapped by terrorists. One of the most angry is Obadiah, the vice president of the Stark Group. He was so angry that he smashed everything that could be smashed in the office. Damn 10 rings. This group of rubbish, they didn't kill Tony, but let him run away. What a group of rubbish. Obadiah dealt with the work at hand with a gloomy face. History Stark Group. History Stark Group. Everyone knows Stark. He Obadiah is always just a little character who wipes his A. From Howard Stark to Tony Stark, everyone only remembers the Stark family, who has considered his efforts and efforts. The weapons development department that I have run for a lifetime is closed when it says it is closed? It's really beautiful. That guy Tony is just the president in name only. He doesn't even know how many real estates he owns, how many weapon workshops he owns, whether it's related or not. 10880 Malibu Street. Tony was working hard in the underground studio, and no one knew what he was doing. Since the press conference, he has locked himself in the basement, and even if he eats, he just asks his life assistant to deliver it to him. Pepper, come down, please. Tony lay on the smart seat and used the home contact device roar to call the home assistant. Not long after, a red-haired lady walked down. It was Tony's housekeeper, Pepper Potts. Let me see how big your hands are. Oh my god, what a pair of delicate little hands, honey. I want to ask you a favor, Tony said, grabbing a delicate instrument from the table beside him. It is the miniature nuclear reactor device that he has repeatedly improved, and the power is completely incomparable with his play in the cave relying on scraps. You live by this? God! Little Pepper covered her mouth in disbelief. A few minutes later, under Tony's command, the two replaced the miniature nuclear reactor unit without any risk. What should I do with this replaced thing? Store it. Little Pepper looked at the old reactor with pus-like substance in his hand and asked Tony. Throw it away. Tony waved. But this thing saved your life, shouldn't you keep it? Little Pepper didn't understand. I have a lot of good things, nostalgia is not one of them. Tony's tone of voice was tyrannical, sounding very rude. Mr. Stark, there is a phone connection, nicknamed Boss. J.A.R.V.I.SS strange electronic synthesis sound, the smart life housekeeper, resounded in the room. Pick up, Tony stood up excitedly. Okay, Mr. Stark, J.A.R.V.I.S obeyed the order respectfully. The beep call is connected. Big brother, I haven't seen you for a day, I miss you. Stark exaggeratedly shouted into the headset. Pepper Posy on the side was stunned. He had never seen Tony like this. Was this really Tony? What did he just say? Not nostalgic? Hey, Mr. Stark, the stock has fallen so much, do you still have money to pay for my goods? Luo Bing's first thing on the phone was to ask about his money. He just looked at it, and there is no transfer information in the bank card. That's it, I was about to tell you, boss, you can't save that much money in the card you gave me. By the way, I have a lot of Swiss purple and gold cards here, is it convenient for you to come? I'll give it to you in person, Tony asked expectantly. His purpose is this, touting the big guy on the phone doesn't make any sense at all, it's more enjoyable to meet in real life. Luo Bing on the other side of the phone was speechless for a while, and then opened his mouth. Well, then, please give me your address, I'll be there in a while. Okay, 10880 Malibu Shores 90265. Tony finished, ending the call. Then, he immediately turned to look at Little Pepper. Happy is not here, let him help me make an appointment with the cover girl for the past 2 months, I need it urgently. By the way, the twins in March are not bad, let's make an appointment together. Happy is dead, Pepper Potts said sternly. What? Dead? When did he die? Oh no, Pepper, don't be kidding, I'm really in a hurry, you go make arrangements for me, it's faster, Stark said anxiously. Squeak! The glass door of the basement was pushed open from the outside, and Luo Bing walked down the stairs. What he said came in a while, maybe a little too soon. What's the arrangement? Luo Bing asked with a smile, turning to look at She Stark's house. It's so big here. You're a boss. Tony's brows creased into Sichuan characters. My name is Luo Bing. Luo Bing doesn't like the big guy's name. Roar. You went to Han country. Tony rubbed his eyes. Luo Bing. The little pepper on the side stared straight at Luo Bing, who was walking down the spiral staircase, and poked Tony subconsciously. Tony turned his head suspiciously. It's too late to arrange anyone now, why don't you arrange me? Little Pepper said, blushing. Hearing this, Tony's eyes widened. Walter Law? No way. Asterisk. Chapter 55. For some reason, Tony, a playboy who has never been tempted by women, was taken aback when he heard Little Pepper's words. Perhaps in daily interactions, Pepper Potts has become an indispensable part of Tony's life. She is not a commodity to be traded, nor a commodity to please anyone. She is a special, one-of-a-kind Pepper Potts. At least for Tony. Why? I need a reason. Pepper turned to look at Tony. Because I'm your boss, this is my order. Tony's tone was serious. It's just that the boss can't control the private life of the employees. I don't owe a sale agreement, I can leave at any time. Pepper looked at Tony provocatively. It's work time, Tony continued with a serious look on his face. I want to take leave. No approval. I'm going to resign. No approval. I want to rest. I'll let you rest, but at least not now. Luo Bing silently looked at the two people in front of them, arguing, who are these two showing their love in front of? Bullying me is still a single dog, right? Xiao Chili suddenly ran to Luo Bing's side and grabbed Luo Bing's arm, startling Luo Bing. Mr. Luo Bing, our boss just asked me to find you some girlfriends, but I'm too stupid to find them, so let me make up the number. Little Pepper smiled and winked at Luo Bing. You can actually call me by my name? You're pretty good. Luo Bing gave a thumbs up and cast an admiring look, with no other meaning. Few Westerners can call him by his name, they will always subconsciously call him Robin. I'm coming. She Stark was excited, he thought Robin had taken a fancy to Little Pepper, and his heart suddenly cramped. I'm here, boss, no one can come on me, Pepper, she's still a child. Tony said and wanted to rush over. Stop, stop. Luo Bing silently summoned out the glass door to separate the two of them, and he felt a chill on his body. What are you talking about? I'm a kid too. Please don't teach me these unhealthy things. Luo Bing was speechless. If he wanted to, there were a lot of girls chasing her at school, and his storage box was full of love letters. He could also live a romantic and unrestrained life. It's just that the 17-year-old Luo Bing still yearns for the hazy thing like love. He wouldn't just fall in love with a woman. That would be a waste. After all, you look so handsome, right? Not to mention, he doesn't like Western girls with freckles either, at least Pepper isn't his ideal target. Ha ha ha, Pepper is going to pour tea. Tony opened the peppers awkwardly. The nympho was only for a while, and actually Pepper was just trying to piss off Tony. At least he is also gentle and coaxed, right? But I have to admit that when she saw Luo Bing's first glance, she was really moved. But that's a pretty normal reaction. Basically all women have this kind of reaction, right? Unless she's not normal. After Pepper left, Tony took out a Swiss bank card from the glove box and handed it to Luo Bing. The two sat down on the sofa. Billion-dollar funds cards are left in the glove box so badly. I'm afraid that only Tony would do such a thing. I always thought that I was the most handsome in the world, but I didn't realize that I could only be second after meeting the big guy. Tony boasted Luo Bing coquettishly and raised himself up. Don't call me a boss, I'm not a gangster. Luo Bing put away the card, feeling very happy. Okay boss, Tony agreed with a smile. Luo Bing was speechless and simply didn't care. Looking at the various tools on the workbench, he asked curiously, are you designing something new? I call it the Mark II, Tony said with a smug expression on his face and called out JARVIS. As an artificial intelligence, J.A.R.V.I.S immediately understood what the boss meant, and a holographic virtual projection of Mark II immediately appeared in front of Luo Bing. Cool, Luo Bing gave a review. This looks much more handsome than the old machine in the cave. Luo Bing likes these handsome things. Perhaps most men are interested in this kind of stuff, just like sports cars. Speaking of which, there was an entire row of sports cars parked in Stark's basement, and Luo Bing was dazzled. Although he doesn't have a driver's license, that doesn't stop him from liking sports cars. Actually, I'm hesitation about building it. Tony's tone suddenly dropped. Why not? Will it cost a lot of money? Luo Bing asked rhetorically. Money? I didn't think about money at all. Tony waved his hand. Luo Bing was a little jealous when he looked like I was rich. The main thing is energy. Tony pointed to the miniature nuclear reactor on his chest. This thing can completely drive the Mark II, but the palladium in it is highly toxic to the human body, which means that normally I can live for more than 10 years, but if I really put on the armor, maybe I only have a few months to live, Tony said, looking a little lonely. His idea was simple. Mark II is his dream and he will make it, but... well, even if you don't wear it, you can watch it and keep it. After all, this is his most proud work. Why not have surgery? Luo Bing asked. The mortality rate is high. I heard that a doctor named Strange has very stable hands, but he has just been in a car accident recently and his hands are already broken. I think it's life. Tony spread his hands, he was relieved. Tea is coming. Chili Pepper walked down, made Luo Bing a good quilt of tea, then glanced at Tony, didn't give a good look, and left. Your girlfriend doesn't know. I didn't tell her. Tony was about to say she's not my girlfriend, but hesitation came to his lips and he swallowed it back. Okay. Luo Bing wouldn't comfort anyone, he just felt it was a pity. After all, knowing that you are going to die if you have so much money to spend, it should feel very uncomfortable. While you're still alive, I want to talk to you about a business. Isn't your weapons department closed? I happen to have a big diamond ball here. Maybe you can consider changing jobs. Luo Bing said. Big diamond ball. Tony wasn't interested in diamonds. In his mind, the development direction of the company in the future is defined as new energy, but since the boss has opened his mouth, he can do any business anyway, and it is not impossible to develop a side business. Okay, how big is your diamond? Tony asked curiously. 50 tons for a whole one, Luo Bing replied. Oh, 50 tons, what? 50 tons for a whole one. Tons. Tony was taken aback, because he had passed through a lot of strong winds and waves, and was also frightened by the ton unit. Can diamonds and tons be related? He suddenly wanted to open his eyes. What was the concept of 50 tons of diamonds? Take a shovel and follow me, Luo Bing said, locating the child's door that he had buried at the time, and reopening a space door above it. After a few minutes, Stark's robot assistants successfully excavated the large meteorite. This is his unique shovel, which saves time and effort. Luo Bing watched silently from the side. It took him half an hour to bury it. Your sister, it's nice to have money. How is it? How big is this diamond? Luo Bing smiled and looked at Stark beside him. Stark froze in place. Wait. Boss, this is not a diamond. Stark exclaimed. What? Luo Bing was startled, wondering if his diamonds just disappeared. The little money flew away. This is a new element crystal. Ha ha ha. This is the new element I've been looking for. He can completely replace the palladium element. Stark was overjoyed and collapsed 2 or 3 times in place. Then he ran to the meteorite and kissed him fiercely, his face full of happiness. Boss, I love you so much. Asterisk. Chapter 56. A few minutes later, Tony's eyes almost turned into hearts after being carefully checked by JARVIS. Under the same weight, the mass of this new element meteorite is dozens of times that of palladium. And it has absolutely no effect on the human body. This is simply a miracle element. So, it's not a diamond? Is he still valuable? Luo Bing, a poor man, never bought a diamond before. When I saw something shiny and hard, I thought it was a diamond. This is just great. Aren't diamonds worthless? Worth. Tony couldn't answer the question at all. This is no longer a question of worthiness. With this new element, his Mark series armor can be developed without any scruples. There's nothing wrong with his body. The new energy projects that I originally wanted to develop can completely crush all the backward petroleum fuels. If new energy is used on aircraft, it will be an unimaginable breakthrough. Even something like a spaceship can be easily built. It's not a question of whether it's worth it or not. This is a major event for the future development of the Earth. He can rely on this to control the lifeblood of the entire planet. Tony swallowed and looked at Luo Bing. Boss, She Stark Group is a family business, so I have a 50% absolute controlling stake. When I announced the closure of the weapons development department in the past 2 days, I have secretly acquired the scattered shares outside. In total, I now own 60% of the shares. I'll give you 40%. From today onwards, you are the largest shareholder of the Stark Group, the second is me, and the third is Obade. What do you think? Tony asked cautiously. Luo Bing. What's the meaning? Does this mean that I will be the richest man in the world? This surprise came unexpectedly, making Luo Bing somewhat at a loss. Are you sure? You're not joking? Luo Bing asked back. I'm pretty sure that tomorrow's She Stark building can be renamed Robin She Stark building, Tony said earnestly. You can do it if you feel it, I don't care, but don't change the name of the building, it sounds awkward. Luo Bing waved his hand, as if you were doing it yourself. Actually. Only he knows how messed up his heart is. New Oriental beauty salon chain store is afraid that it will not be able to open. The art exhibition industry can't be done, what, uncomfortable. Maybe this is the pain of the rich. Okay. I'll find a lawyer to sign a share transfer agreement right away, Tony said decisively. At noon that day, the resolute Tony, witnessed by 5 international lawyers, signed the share transfer contract, and immediately held a press conference to declare all this. And take this opportunity to declare the future development direction of the company New Energy Technology. All the media people just thought Tony was crazy. But it's not Tony who's crazy. It's Obama. No words can describe his anger at the moment, it's just that there's nothing in the office for him to smash. Some people say that Tony, the prodigal son, destroyed the empire his father left behind. Others say Tony is really mentally ill and should be taken to a psychiatric hospital. Almost everyone is not optimistic about Tony's new energy project. History Stark's stock market fell again, hitting the limit. History Stark Group's property has shrunk by trillions in one day, but Tony doesn't care about all this. He didn't care what anyone saw, those muggles would just wag their tails with the reals. He knew that when he started implementing a new energy project, everyone would wag their tails and cry. Tony didn't bother to use this to prove how wise his decision was. He is a genius. No proof required. Even if the stock fell by the limit, She Stark Group is still the world's largest consortium, and the world's second and third largest groups behind them are wagging their tails in tears. Luo Bing did not show up at the press conference, and the speculation behind the mysterious major shareholder of the She Stark Group echoed what others said. In fact, Luo Bing doesn't know how much money he has now. He only knew that he was rich, and the interest on the shares every day would allow him to live unrestrainedly for several lifetimes. All afternoon, Luo Bing stayed in Stark She, oh no. Maybe in his own room. He owns 60% of the property, including everything in the house. He could have ordered Tony to move out immediately, and then moved in himself, but Luo Bing didn't have that idea at all. Tony builds his own Mark II in the basement, Luo Bing joins hands. In fact, he was watching Tony, too, to prevent him from playing himself to death. The cube chips made by new energy sources are so powerful that Mark II almost knocked down the villa when it took off. Later, when making the flight aid for the arm, it directly shattered 2 walls with 1 cannon. Later, when testing the height of flight, I almost froze to death. Fortunately, Luo Bing is there. Painted in red and gold spray paint, Tony soars freely in the sky. Although Luo Bing can appear in the sky with infinite flash, and even with his immortal body, he can jump to a height of 1000 meters with all his strength, but he can't fly either. So after Tony fell to the ground, Luo Bing decisively took out the Batman battlesuit he had just retrieved from Fitz today and handed it over. The future Batman battlesuit upgrade will be handed over to you. Luo Bing's face was somber, it felt good to be called by someone. Although Fitz is also a genius, when it comes to upgrading equipment, Tony dumps him 80,000 blocks. Batman battlesuit? Boss, you are Batman. Tony only now knew Luo Bing's other identity. The last time we met at Jinbing Port, Luo Bing's battlesuit had been stained with blood and had to be repaired. Superhero is just one of my hobbies. Luo Bing nodded, this identity has nothing to hide from his own people. Cool. I've decided. I'll be Iron Man from now on. Tony threw a punch and made a pose. It's just that he's still wearing a battlesuit now, which looks a bit weird. Taking into account the fact that it is not easy to wear, Luo Bing put forward some requirements for his battlesuit. He does not need full metal, and he is not lacking in defense at all. He just needs to be handsome. Can fly. Tony stuck out a thumbs up, saying it was perfectly fine. There are already many ideas in the brain of this genius. Including his own armor, he is also thinking about an easier way to wear it. Asterisk. Chapter 57. In the evening, Luo Bing bought a new manor on the coast of Malibu, and Tony was not far away. This manor is about the same area as Tony, but the architectural style is completely different. It is an old-time castle building. It was bought by Tony from a descendant of a British nobleman. It is said that this is the manor built by the former Chademura family. There are also portraits of vampire bats on the walls of the hallway. I don't know if there are such creatures as vampires, but Luo Bing really likes the bat portrait. I don't know if it came from the artist, but it looks very comfortable. Coincidentally, it is also very appropriate to his other title. The only downside is that it's a bit far from the city. But any distance is nothing to Luo Bing. When Luo Bing walked in with Sky, he pointed to the castle behind him and said that it was our new residence in the future. Sky's eyes changed. She wondered if Luo Bing robbed the bank, or ransacked the bank vault directly with any door. I have to say, Luo Bing really has that ability. But he disdained to do such a thing. Although it is a castle building, it is not derailed from modern times. It has both classical elegance and high-tech convenience. After installing the Friday artificial intelligence butler, everything here becomes more comfortable. I have to say that the artificial intelligence developed by Tony is really useful, and Friday is roughly the same as the J.A.R.V.I.S function, except that Friday is a female artificial intelligence. Compared to J.A.R.V.I.S, at least Friday's voice is much better. That night, the New York Evening News reported two horrific events. First, the 10 Rings terrorists attacked a small town in Afghanistan with brutal methods. It can be seen from the picture that they used the Jericho missile produced by the latest History Stark group, and arrogantly killed the just returned man in front of the camera. The family's Ethan seems to be declaring war. Since there are hostages in hand, it is difficult for the garrisoned military to intervene. At present, we can only negotiate. Second, the thrilling and terrifying Lizard Man in Queens, where Spider-Man fights, is unknown. At the same time, many pedestrians in Queens are infected with the lizard virus, giving people the feeling that they are zombies. Completely zombies attack passers-by rationally and shops. Tony was furious, and Ethan was his savior, so he was brutally murdered by terrorists. 10 Rings are unforgivable. The Gold and Red Mark II flew out of the basement and flew towards Afghanistan at a rapid pace. Meanwhile, Luo Bing also came to Queens. He was a little worried about Peter. Although that guy was annoying, Luo Bing didn't want him to die. After all, he was Luo Bing's first friend after he came to New York. On a certain street in Queens, hundreds of lizard mutants crowded the street, biting people when they saw them, and their bodies recovered amazingly. If they didn't hit the head, the police's weapons would not be able to deal with them at all. Any harm? Go to hell, monster! The policeman with a gun pulled the trigger and aimed hard at the humanoid lizard in front of him. But that guy is agile, and even if one of his arms is interrupted, he can quickly grow a new one. There was chaos on the street, and panic shrouded Queens. The lizard virus spreads extremely fast, and the person bitten by the humanoid lizard turns into a lizard man after a short period of madness and begins to frantically cause damage to the surrounding. The entire Queens district has been completely blocked by the military, and the refugees must undergo a full-body examination before they are allowed to evacuate. If this lizard virus were to spread to the outside world, it would be an unimaginable disaster. It may be scarier than the zombie virus in the movie. This disaster even directly alerted SHIELD. Basically, agents from various countries within the scope of New York were dispatched, even Natasha Romanoff was no exception. Damn bugs! Natasha Romanoff cut off the head of a lizardman in an instant, the widow's bite in his hand glowing blue. Request reinforcements. This guy is infecting humans too fast. Many agents are also infected. No. Please evacuate, you can't lose any agents. The superior immediately summoned an emergency video conference, and the members of the World Federation had a heavy face, constantly listening to the casualty report, frowning tightly. The latest holographic projection technology of the World United Nations makes everyone feel like they are in person, and everyone gathers around the round table and exchanges their opinions with each other. This biochemical infection came too fast. Catch the MPs off guard. Queens is a densely populated city, with at least 50,000 residents, not counting fugitives and black households. From the beginning of the riot to the present, it has lasted for 2 hours. During this period, more than 20,000 residents were infected, including many policemen, soldiers, and agents. This is an unequal battle. The peacekeepers can only station high walls outside the city, and the powerful firepower network pushes back the pedestrian lizards that want to cross Queens and invade other areas. I recommend nuclear weapons. A blonde-haired, shadowy white man tapped the table, looking ugly in the virtual video. No, there are still a lot of residents who haven't evacuated, we can't do this. It's inhumane. The black-haired young congressman clenched his fists and shouted his opinion. At the moment everyone's mood is very complicated. No one would want to use nuclear weapons if there was no way out. Chin, tell me what to do? It's already a war. Queens is so big, there are always gaps in the defense net. If these guys run out, run to your country, run to my country, run around the world, can you imagine what kind of scene it would be like? The middle-aged man with sharp eagle eyes was very calm, expressing himself the opinion of, at the moment is no longer a time to hang on high. Really let these infected people flow out of Queens, who knows what the world will be like in the future, this kind of guy is more terrifying than the zombies in the movie. At least zombies won't be reborn from broken arms. Congressman Chin was silent. In fact, he should vote in favor. After all, Queens is not his country's territory. Most of the members present were holding this idea, but Chin was not reconciled. Once upon a time, he took the position of the representative of the United Nations member of the Huaxia district in high spirits. At that time, he was full of passion and energy. World nuclear level? That's not the justice he wants. During this operation, many agents from Huaxia district also fell into Queens district. Chin gritted his teeth. You must know that even in Queens district, there are many Huaxia people. He hated his own powerlessness. It's just for the sake of the overall situation, he can only make a choice. In fact, his vote is no longer important, and basically all the members present voted in agreement. The Queen's nuclear baptism plan is finalized. It seems that the situation has turned around. It's Batman, oh shit. What is he doing? All the members present looked towards the holographic projection on the table, and a black figure appeared in the holographic projection. At the moment the moon is full. The dark cloak was rippling, looking at the dense lizard zombies in front of him, the back of the night under the moonlit night was very lonely. P.S. It is going to be on the shelves. Please order it first. I don't write any testimonials anymore. The slow update is my criticism. I am not handicapped. That's not a big deal, mainly because my procrastination is a bit annoying. I usually swipe my phone for a while and it's gone. After I put it on the shelves, I will correct this problem. Not to mention the explosion on the first day, it is definitely there, and I will maintain a minimum of 4 to 5 chapters every day in the future, which is also the limit of what I can do. Now at 1 o'clock in the morning, I have to code all night in order to break out, and it will be on the shelves around 12 noon today. Ask for the first order. Ask for support. Asterisk. Chapter 58. The moon is extra bright tonight. But it's not warm. Heads of lizard monsters roamed the streets, biting people when they saw them, and the scene was bloody. The streets are full of wriggling corpses. After those corpses were resurrected, their skin turned green, and lizard tails grew behind them, and they joined the lizard army. Swish's shadow constantly flashed across Queens. Luo Bing's infinite flash constantly shreds lizardmen's heads, but it's not the most efficient way. The army of lizard zombies is too much. Peter. Peter. Where are you? Please reply. Luo Bing contacted Peter Parker while harvesting the heads of the lizard zombies. He's the one who knows the most about what's going on here. After all, he was the first lizardman to be discovered. Unfortunately, there is no reply in the contactor. In an unknown sewer in Queens, Peter, wearing a Spider-Man battle suit, fainted and died in a stinky ditch, and the communicator at hand had been smashed to pieces. Ha 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 ha. Dr. Connors in a white coat laughed frantically. Even he himself could not have imagined that his lizard virus would have such great power. At the moment he has been completely dominated by the wildness in his body. Maybe he is not Connors now. He is Dr. Lizard. Damn. Luo Bing smashed the heads of the two lizardmen who were trying to get close to him. His steel chopping knife was so twisted again that Luo Bing threw it out as a flying darts weapon. All in all, Luo Bing, who had obtained the immortal body of the Unsullied, was quite astounding in combat power even after losing his weapon. His body was as tough as a god. One full punch can destroy a building. He jumped high for thousands of meters, and then fell heavily. The ground beneath his feet dented a large crater as if it had been hit by a meteorite. Cobweb-like cracks spread out in all directions. Dozens of lizard zombies were directly crushed into powder by the impact. The scorching three-hook jade kept spinning in Luo Bing's eye sockets, his world turned blood red, and even the moon above his head turned blood red. All things were gradually slowed down in his eyes, and the world seemed to be quiet in an instant. Before, his body couldn't keep up with the speed of his eyes. But now Luo Bing is different. Instant dark shadows appeared in every corner of Queens like a phantom version. Luo Bing was full of firepower, and green blood flowers bloomed. The green, fetid blood couldn't touch his body. The scale-free body automatically filters out all garbage. On the roof, in the alley, in the room, in the residence, that black shadow seems to be everywhere. He alone is an army. What happened? How is this possible? Looking at the small red dots in the radar chart that dropped rapidly in an instant, all the lawmakers widened their eyes. Report. A large number of survivors suddenly appeared out of thin air in the 13th quarantine area. Report. A large number of survivors suddenly appeared in the 5th quarantine area. Report. Luo Bing's figure appeared repeatedly in various places. As he slaughtered, he took the survivors who were hiding in the house out of Queens. Luo Bing is like a killing machine that doesn't know how to get tired. His world is slowing down, but he is not slow in killing lizardmen. The 1 kilometer around is the critical point of his crazy flash. During this period, he doesn't know how many knives he has used, and his fists are full of dust. 3 times the lucky full open case. Every time Luo Bing flashes, he just happens to save the survivors from the lizard zombies. He seems to be everywhere. He was there in time for every emergency. Report. There are 10,000 lizard zombies left. The observer gave the most accurate data for the first time. The small red dots that were originally dense on the radar have been reduced at this moment. Half an hour. In half an hour, Luo Bing killed 10,000 lizard zombies. He is very tired. Even the Wuxiao immortal body can't seem to support his crazy consumption. But he didn't stop. At this time, he has no reason to stop. Constantly new energies burst forth from every cell of the body. The shriveled cells became full again, and it seemed that under this crazy consumption, his body was reborn again. It was an indescribable feeling. Even the writing wheel eyes in his eyes became weird because of this miraculous power of life. The speed of the Goyu's rotation is getting faster and faster, and gradually a wonderful rune is connected to the city. That's a golden hexagram. Luo Bing can feel that his writing wheel has evolved. There is no new Goyu, but it has reached a new field. Flame, and space? Luo Bing could vaguely feel the changes brought about by the new eyes. There seems to be a powerful ability in his left and right eyes. But at the moment he didn't have time to research his new ability. I just feel that my space ability is getting better and better, and now he can sense any space node within a kilometer around him. No need to know the coordinates. Even after 3 or 5 minutes, Luo Bing gradually mastered a method of spatial cutting. Although he was not very skilled in using it, it also accelerated Luo Bing's killing speed. In another flashback, Luo Bing smashed several large lizards charging from behind Natasha Romanoff with one punch, and took the dagger she threw from behind. The two of them have met many times tonight, and at the moment they have a tacit understanding. But... damn! Peter Parker woke up from the coma. He had already heard the constant roar from outside the pipe, and he had realized something. Hand over the antidote. UBD! Peter yelled, falling into Connor's trap during the previous battle. Although I don't know why he saved his life, Spider-Man, who didn't, Zhao Zhao, live at the moment, doesn't want to worry about it anymore. Hee. The crazy Connors became quiet at the moment instead. His nerves are sometimes normal, sometimes abnormal, and the souls of Dr. Lizard and Connors, the scientist, alternate in his brain. There is no antidote, don't struggle anymore. Do you think there will be a way to recover after mutating to that extent? Ha ha ha, if there was an antidote, I would have used it for myself. Did you think a movie was being filmed here? It's reality. Wake up, kid. 35 Connors rushed towards Peter frantically. Damn you. I will never forgive you. Peter also rushed to make up for it frantically. The dark cloak obscured the moon in the sky. Luo Bing didn't plan to find an antidote to stop the lizard zombies from the very beginning. His antidote is simple. Number. Kill these bugs. Chapter 59. The counselors in the conference hall at the moment were silent. The latest news of the major temporary shelters came constantly in my ears. Looking at the small red dots on the radar map, all the members were already numb. Is he a god? Some are happy, some are terrified. This kind of power is beyond their comprehension. But luckily, that Black Knight seems to be on the same side as them. Reinforcement! Reinforcement! Qin watched this scene excitedly and stood up from his seat excitedly. Every content uploaded from the uninterrupted video surprised him immensely. Reinforcement! Go and help Batman! Another counselor stood up from his seat and shouted loudly. Everyone seems to really see hope at this moment. At the same time as the order was issued, the disobedient troops stationed on the periphery of Queens gave way in an instant, and a dozen M1 tanks drove into Queens mightily. The tank ran over the corpses piled up as high as a city wall, and the lizard zombies could not tear the iron sheet, and were crushed one by the crawlers. The black shadow flashed by, and because the speed of the continuous flash was too fast, blurred phantoms were left on the whole street. The hidden sword in his hand pierced the heads of hundreds of lizard zombies in a row. Luo Bing took a breath and teleported to the rooftop of the 780th building to recover his strength. The hidden sword was retracted into his sleeve. Chi Widow's Bites chain hooked onto the rock wall of the rooftop, and Natasha Romanoff was lifted up by the chain in an instant, and along the way, he tackled a few green lizards that were climbing on the wall. A Kun style came to this area from far to near. A man wearing star stripes holding a shield jumped down from the Kun style, glanced at Luo Bing beside him, nodded, and then jumped into the lizard group below. Looks like he's awake. Luo Bing stood up with his hands on the ground, reached out to catch the two steel slashing knives thrown from the Kun style, crossed his hands, and shot out a lot of sparks. I hope I'm not late. The blind stick in the hand of Daredevil Matthew in red tights instantly pierced the head of a green lizard. His kindness is reserved only for humans, not monsters. Little Spider-Man fell on the swing beside Luo Bing. In his hand was a large lizard cocooned by a cobweb. That's Dr. Lizard. I'm sorry, I didn't stop this in time. Peter Parker was very disappointed, and his words became less. There will always be accidents. Luo Bing didn't accuse Peter. In fact, he was also responsible. If he hadn't been playing in the league at the time, this might not have happened. But things happened. Luo Bing didn't think it was all his fault. He's not an idiot who takes all the faults on his own. So all of this is so weird. This stupid muggle. Who trademark made you develop the game? How do you know how many people you've killed? A burst of Shudo thrill music suddenly resounded in the sky. At the same time, a streamer streaked across the sky, and Tony, whose whole body was wrapped in Mark II, landed on the rooftop. The most surprising thing to me is that you came so slowly. Luo Bing looked at Tony who was beside him, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. I went to Afghanistan and wasted a bit of time, hey? Tony said, raising his hand and firing an energy cannon, shattering the lizardman's body that had already climbed to the rooftop. So, what kind of era is this? Captain America, who had only woken up from the freeze in the morning, threw out his shield and flew back to his hand after smashing 4 lizardmen in a row. Is your body thawed, Captain? Luo Bing asked jokingly. I still need to warm up, but it's just right, there seems to be a lot of sparring here. Steve flipped in the air, dodging a deadly attack from a lizard man, and turned his head and slammed it down. Looks like everyone is here. Then move on, guys. Luo Bing stretched his body, leaned forward, buffa, and falled directly under the roof. Dude? Please respect the only woman present. Natasha Romanoff jumped, and when she jumped to another rooftop, the pistol fired continuously, hitting the eyebrows of several lizard zombies with precision. Hey guys, my name is Spider-Man, I think we can leave a phone number later. With Luo Bing's comfort, little Spider-Man felt much better. Maybe we can go to a barbecue, I heard that there is a good barbecue restaurant. Stark raised his hands and fired another energy cannon. This thing was originally set to stabilize the flight, but unexpectedly it became a weapon. Barbecue? No, please don't mention the word meat to me now. Luo Bing shuddered. Anyone who chops up more than 10,000 disgusting lizard monsters will have a psychological shadow on meat. Especially these lizard zombies are human conversions. Haha. Stark shuttled between tall buildings and mountains, 6 small missiles were ejected from his shoulders. J.A.R.V.I.S intelligently locked a large group of lizard zombies in 6 directions, the missiles were launched, and the whole city instantly became bright. What kind of guys are these people, why am I still using my fists? Steve rolled his eyes speechlessly, and fought with a large lizard next to him. It seems to have become a battlefield for superhero. The tanks on the side can only play cover. 5 minutes later, Stark frowned, and J.A.R.V.I.S thermal sensors locked onto a large, unknown object that, judging from its shape, was at least 7 stories tall. What kind of thing is that, FK? They integrate together. Stark floated in the air, looking at the monster in the distance with serious eyes. Please don't swear, that's uncivilized, Steve reminded solemnly. Afterwards, he turned his head and glanced at the growing black shadow in the distance, and he was stunned for a moment. Sheet. I seem to have heard someone say civilized language. Stark shot the lizard zombies next to him, and didn't forget to tease Steve. What the hell is that? Guys, my spider telepathy is giving me a very strong danger warning, that could be a big deal. Peter's cobweb is almost depleted, at the moment he's barehanded and a few lizard zombies are fighting. I can't let them integrate anymore. Luo Bing also noticed the growing monster in the distance. Those lizard zombies have become monsters like Godzilla through continuous devouring. Boom! The earth trembled. The ground where Luo Bing was shattered into cobweb-like cracks, and the whole person rushed towards the big guy like a meteor. Chapter 60. There was a sonic boom in the air, Luo Bing punched, and the powerful force penetrated the entire body of the integrate monster. A big hole was opened directly in his head. However, compared to this big guy's body, the big hole opened by Luo Bing is not even 1/10 the size of his head. Gudong gudong. The flesh and blood tumbled, making a oozing creaking sound. In just 2 or 3 seconds, Luo Bing's wound had completely healed. Let me try. Tony flew over, the energy cannon in his palm constantly firing, and the air was filled with the smell of barbecue. But this level of attack not only did not work, but completely angered the big guy. Roar! The Godzilla lizard zombie roared loudly and smashed a building with one palm. Very dangerous. Stark ducked in time, his heart tightened. Do we have more firepower? This hunk's recovery ability is too strong. Stark frowned, feeling helpless. This guy even ate the corpse of his companion, what the hell is this? Natasha Romanoff frowned and pressed the communication button on the headset. Tank, aim, fire. Hearing Natasha Romanoff's command, the tankers turned to the muzzle. In an instant, the bursting cannon shot out of the chamber, and with the usual streamer swallowtail, it directly hit the monster in the distance. While the body is getting bigger, the speed of this big guy has slowed down, it is like a target that doesn't move. Boom! A dozen tanks fired salvos, and the shells exploded on the body of the integrate monster, sending out a lot of smoke. He's alive! Keep attacking! Stark flew through the sky, his scanning system running, and the seriousness of the matter could be seen from his frown. Tanks continued to fire, rumbling blasts constantly spreading across Queens. Luo Bing landed on the ruins of a dilapidated building, and his unfavorable fist could not cause an effective attack on this big thing. The cannonball rained, and the roar of the monster was constantly heard in the smoke. From the sound, it could be heard that the damage of the shells was also very uncomfortable for him. But it's still alive. Flesh and bones flew, constantly intertwined, and gathered together again. When the smoke cleared, the Godzilla lizard monster, whose injuries were completely intact, appeared in front of everyone. Is he the regenerative healing factor? Steve wiped the cold sweat from his brow. Now the lizard zombies that are still alive around them are all actively gathering towards the monster in the distance, and the big guy has become even bigger after absorbing the new kind. Even the building on the side looked like a dwarf in front of it. God, how should this thing be killed? Peter leaned weakly against a building, he was stuck to the wall like he had glue on his hands. Luo Bing frowned at this scene. Spatial cuts are useless against stuff. The wound caused is too small for it. The most important point is that this big guy doesn't seem to have a heart or a brain. Luo Bing just attacked his head, but unfortunately the attack didn't work. The lawmakers at the conference table frowned at this scene. The sudden appearance of the huge Godzilla lizard made their hearts rise to their throats again. This thing looks like it can evolve infinitely, as long as it constantly devours its own kind, it can constantly grow. And not only the living kind, he can absorb even the corpses of the same kind piled up in mountains. This is not good news. Would you like to use nuclear weapons? The blonde old congressman suggested again. Now the survivors have basically been rescued. Urban destruction at best with nuclear weapons is not as difficult to decide as it used to be. But what if this thing can absorb nuclear radiation? Another member said with a frown. They don't know the situation of this guy at present. Considering its tenacious regenerative healing factor and huge size, they are inexplicably connected with the special film of the island country in their impression. After all, in the special films shot by the island country, generally this kind of big guy can absorb nuclear radiation. No way. Godzilla is just a fiction, this big guy may not be so powerful if he really absorbs the nuclear radiation, then it's over, some congressman retorted. Hulk can absorb nuclear radiation. A congressman frowned and muttered. Everyone's faces sank immediately, and they didn't want to mention the green monster. What now? Maybe I can fly into its mouth and start destroying it from the inside. Tony frowned and said. No, that's too dangerous. Luo Bing rejected Tony's suggestion. For flowers, 0 this guy is constantly eating his own kind, and we're barely even getting close to him now. Steve frowned, he'd never seen anything like this before. During Hitler's time, only Red Skull could fight him, and he was the most technologically advanced on the planet. But after 70 years of slumber, awakening came as if the whole world had changed. Matthew gasped heavily, this guy was injured again in the battle just now, and he never seemed to be intact. Can any of us become Ultraman? Little Spider-Man asked innocently. Ultraman, what is that? Steve frowned suspiciously, he needed a good make-up lesson. It's a cosmic Superman, the kind that can turn into light with a shout. Hey, Spider Brat, can you suggest something more childish? Tony looked at Peter speechlessly. 0 Luo Bing was stunned. The golden hexagram in the eye socket seems to indicate something. Wait a moment, looks like I can transform, Luo Bing said suddenly. What? Can you transform into Ultraman? Everyone except Steve widened their eyes curiously, turning their heads to look at Luo Bing in shock. Captain America, it's hard, Stevie Gut wasn't at their point of shock. Definitely not. Luo Bing had a black line on his face. He turned into a ghost Ultraman. It's just that his new pair of riding wheels seems to bring him a new energy when both pairs of eyes exert force at the same time. Don't be arrogant, let me do some research. Luo Bing sat cross-legged on the spot, until now he didn't have time to feel his eyes carefully. You're going to do a transformation, Wuo. Little Spider-Man covered his spider hood, he bit his tongue, and his tears were almost left. Luo Bing withdrew his finger, he had long wanted to silence this guy, but he finally got the chance. Is the power in the left eye originally called Amaterasu? The divine power in the right eye allows me to better grasp the power of space, the black flame that will never go out until the target is burned to death. Amazing. Maybe you can beat this guy with this. Luo Bing stood up, took off his Batman blindfold and threw it aside while everyone watched. Amaterasu, A&D. Chapter 61. Raging. Where Luo Bing's eyes focused, a large number of black flames shot out of thin air. The golden hexagram constantly revolved, and the Amaterasu flames rose as if they had been doused with gasoline when they touched the Godzilla lizard zombie. Amaterasu was very effective, and the big man seemed to be burnt by the black flame that came out of nowhere. The fire is getting bigger and bigger, and if Luo Bing doesn't collect it, Amaterasu won't go out until it burns out the target. Great, this guy's vital signs are constantly weakening. Stark heard the good news, and everyone let out a sigh of relief. Luo Bing was also relieved. If it wasn't for this guy's size, he seemed to be able to use his divine power to banish him to another dimension. However, from the current point of view, Amaterasu seems to be enough to solve this thing. It's a pity that Luo Bing doesn't know that Amaterasu, who looks very powerful, has never burned anyone in another world. 780 But soon, Luo Bing realized this. This guy is shedding. Natasha Romanoff exclaimed in surprise. Rather than shedding its skin, it is better to say that it is shedding flesh. The Godzilla lizard zombie shrunk in a circle, and the layer of flesh that was removed by him was directly burned out. Amaterasu. The golden hexagram kaleidoscope spun again, but this time it caused Luo Bing's left eye to ache slightly. The black flame ignited the whole body of the Godzilla lizard zombie again. However, it seems that after the previous experience, this time he quickly shed another layer of skin, and did not shrink as much as last time. This guy, the vitality is really tenacious. Luo Bing touched his left eye. For this kind of power that he is not yet familiar with, he seems to be unable to use it continuously, which will cause certain damage to his eyes. However, the immortal body of Wu Zhao constantly transmits energy to repair his eyes, and under this condition, his eyes will not be short-sighted or blind at all. The black flame went out again. Luo Bing frowned. Amaterasu's flames are strong. It's not an exaggeration to call Luo Bing's strongest physical attack at present, but it also had big flaws originally. But not everyone can separate their flesh and shed their skin like the Kosla lizard zombie. This guy has shed his skin again, but has shrunk a lot. Stark flew over the integrate monster, gathering energy cannons in his hands to constantly harass this guy. Although the attack may not be effective, but it can also contain it, so that he cannot continue to devour other similar. Looks like I'm going to be transformed. Luo Bing clenched his fists. He wasn't quite sure about that unfamiliar power. The golden hexagram exudes a mysterious light. Luo Bing closed his eyes and carefully felt the power contained in the mysterious pupils. Chi chi chi. A golden skeleton emanated from all around him. It is not a real skeleton, but is composed of kaleidoscope writing wheel eyes and the energy in Luo Bing Wu Zhao Xian. But his tenacity is completely different from his skeleton. The skeleton spread, covering Luo Bing's body, and not long after, a golden half-body skeleton warrior appeared in everyone's eyes. There is no lower body, it is about 10 meters high, and there is not even a trace of flesh and blood meridians on the body. It is completely composed of skeletons composed of golden energy. This is not a complete body, Luo Bing can feel it. However, that's enough. Luo Bing flicked the steel cutting knife in his hand, and the golden bones on his body also flicked his hand. Chi chi chi. A golden ordinary long knife was transformed from the golden skeleton's hand, and its appearance was somewhat similar to Luo Bing's steel cutting knife. It turns out that this thing is called Susanoo. Luo Bing knew its name for the first time in his mind when he released Susanoo. Bending his knees slightly, great strength gathered in his legs. Susanoo turned into a golden light and rushed towards the Kosla lizard zombie. The battle between the two big guys is about to break out. He really transformed. Everyone present looked at the golden skeleton giant dumbfounded. Against this dark night, the golden skull giant at the moment is very dazzling. The strength of the two sides seems to be not above the same level at all. Luo Bing manipulated Suzuo, and a horizontal slash directly cut off an arm of the integrate blame. The integrate monster roared, and the growth rate of the granulation in the cut wound became slower, and it was difficult to recover even with such a large arm. The violent wind swept the air towards Luo Bing, and behind the wind was the giant fist of integrate strange green abscess. This seemingly insane guy only knows how to run amok. His attack couldn't fall on Luo Bing at all. Shu was cut out again, and a bright golden light streaked across the sky. Susanoo Kaiying stared for a few minutes, and a thread of meridians appeared on his arm. After several consecutive moves, the situation has become very clear. The Godzilla lizard can't deal a single bit of damage to Luo Bing's Suzuo at all. On the contrary, the golden Susanoo can chop down a huge chunk of green minced meat with every swing of his knife. It's over. Luo Bing closed his eyes, and the golden giant in midair instantly appeared behind the Godzilla lizard zombie. Draw the knife! Luo Bing shouted loudly and waved the steel cutting knife in his hand. At the same time, Susa's golden giant sword slid across the sky at the same time and landed on the Godzilla lizard zombie. Its defense is like paper paste, directly crushed by the golden giant sword. Cut in two. Roar. Integra roared unwillingly. But he soon became silent and fell to the ground. The huge body has turned into two sessions. Amaterasu. Luo Bing did not relax, forcibly using his left eye to release the Amaterasu black flame that was burning everything. The flames covered the body of the integrate monster and continued to burn constantly. This thing's recovery ability is too strong, and it can stand up for a while without burning it out. It's amazing. When little Spider-Man saw this scene, the whole spider was dumbfounded, constantly rubbing his eyes. In fact, it was not only himself who was surprised, everyone was taken aback by the sudden giant battle. Steve looked at the figure of the golden skull giant gradually fading, and his whole person was a little suspicious of life. Has the world become like this? Oh, God! It's crazy too. Cool. Can I also make a super large steel battlesuit? Stark touched his chin, and many thoughts popped up in his heart. This series is called Anti-Boss Armor. Forget it, sounds a little rebellious. Stark joked and fell directly to the ground. The small 5.0 type reactor transformed from the new meteorite elements in the chest is full of power. He has flown back and forth to Afghanistan, and has spared no effort in several battles, but still maintains a healthy energy. If it was replaced with the previous palladium element reactor, it would have been out of power long ago. It's over. Natasha Romanoff collapsed on the ground tired, ignoring the usual goddess fan. It's over. Luo Bing appeared beside everyone with certainty. Great, my old arms and legs seem to need some time to recover. Steve breathed a sigh of relief and put the shield behind him. Several people in tights, steel battle suits, and black trench coats looked at each other. The situation was inexplicably awkward. My phone number is XXXXXXXXX. Little Spider-Man took out a pen and paper out of nowhere and looked at everyone. That's pretty clear. I gave you my number. Give me your number. Chapter 62. In the end, a group of people still couldn't laugh or cry and left their contact information. Little Spider-Man is so cute that everyone can't bear to refuse his request. Steve is more embarrassed, and he is not someone who has never seen high-tech. Back in the Howard period, Howard Stark fully provided the equipment of the Roaring Agent led by the captain. To be honest, Howard was also one of the first founders when S.H.I.E.L.D was established. It's just that the communication equipment at that time was not so developed. The captain took out his old antique machine. Although it was not as exaggerated as a brick, it was definitely an antique that should be lying in the museum. Don't know where S.H.I.E.L.D got him from. Ha! I haven't seen this thing in a long time. If you don't mind, I want to exchange it with you for the latest Stark munitions machine, Tony said. The panel of the steel armor opened directly, revealing that everyone knew Playboy face. Mr. Howard. Steve froze, as if he was back 70 years ago in an instant. My father died unexpectedly when I was a child, but I have heard him praise you a lot since I was a child. Stark stretched out his right hand with a smile on his face. Tony and Howard look very similar, and the mustache that has been carefully groomed looks like it was carved out of a mold. Captain America and Iron Man's first meeting is surprisingly harmonious. Mr. Stark. Oh. God. You are Mr. Stark. Peter jumped up excitedly. Just like fans are excited to see a star. Luo Bing rolled his eyes. At school, he knew Peter was a Stark fan, and he was a huge fan. Hello, Spider Kid, you're good at it. Stark also held out his right hand to Peter. Little Spider-Man looked at his right hand that was stained with green lizard blood, took off the gloves of Spider-Man's suit embarrassedly, and shook hands with Tony. Well, your spider battlesuit and web shooters are very well designed, quite a genius idea, Tony said, looking at Peter. Ah ha ha ha. The praised little Spider-Man scratched his head embarrassedly. He was shy. I didn't see you so excited when I knew my identity at the time. Luo Bing rolled his eyes, paralyzed beside Natasha Romanoff. He was very tired tonight. Is it too late to be excited? Natasha Romanoff looked at Luo Bing beside him speechlessly. She had already suspected Batman's true identity in the previous battle, but she finally confirmed the moment when Luo Bing released Amaterasu and took off his blindfold. It's just that the circumstances at the time did not allow her to have other ideas. I can only hold this shock in my heart. This guy, what secrets do you want to hide? What an intriguing man. Do you need me to sign your autograph? Luo Bing took a deep breath and asked teasingly. Perhaps we can find a place where no one is there and sign in a more suitable place. Natasha Romanoff chuckled. Another day, I'm tired. Luo Bing ignored the woman's ridicule. He was really tired, he didn't want to move at all, and the whole person lined up on the rooftop in big characters. Bang bang, bang bang. A large number of peacekeepers poured into Queens, collecting corpses to clear the way, while vigilant searchers in all corners of the alley, lest any fish escape. I think it's time for me to go, there is a chance to meet again, Daredevil Matthew said, and jumped off the balcony. He didn't like to show his face, it was too dangerous for him. He has to go home to deal with his injuries. Hey soldier, I think you need a bandage, Steve called out into the distance. Don't worry about him, Captain, he's always like this. Every time I meet him, this guy can always add a few more wounds to his body. Don't worry, he won't die. Luo Bing closed his eyes. There was a stench of gunpowder and burnt smoke in the air. I'm afraid no one will live in this city in a short time. At least until it is completely purified, the Aborigines dare not come back. This place has become their nightmare. A reporter is coming, shall we withdraw? Peter said subconsciously. Withdraw? What are you panicking about? You are a superhero, not a criminal. We fought desperately for an hour or two, but we still can't show our faces. Luo Bing turned his head to Peter with contempt. Besides, you're not wearing a headgear, who knows you? Luo Bing rolled his eyes, his blindfold had just been thrown by him, and now his entire face is exposed. Still, it's no big deal. Sooner or later, he will reveal his true identity to the world, perhaps today. Haha, I'm looking forward to it, you know Spider-Boy, the superhero behind the scenes isn't much of a concern, I'd rather show up, attract all the attention, shock all the guys who want to commit a crime, and let them know, there's always someone in the world watching them, Stark boasted. Come on, you just want to be in the limelight. Luo Bing rolled his eyes contemptuously. Major shareholders, starting from this evening, are you ready for a stock that is about to skyrocket? Stark smiled meaningfully. He always has his own considerations in doing things, and Ping is not trying to be in the limelight for no reason. It's also important to definitely stand out. Stark is now figuring out what pose to put up in response to the press. What about you, Captain? After tonight, your museum will be crowded over the threshold. By the way, did you know that you have your own museum? Luo Bing sat up from the ground and looked at Steve beside him. Steve looked embarrassed. I actually guessed. Mr. Captain, the message on your epitaph is wonderful, our school organized to send you flowers, little Spider-Man told some past events out of time. Steve, please stop talking. I think we should set up a Superboy team, that should be cool. Luo Bing stood up and stretched his body. After a few minutes of rest, he can now play day and night again. Please respect the only lady at the scene. Nada 780 Sha grabbed Luo Bing's clothes and stood up. She was sweaty and exhausted. Oh, sorry, I always ignore you subconsciously. Luo Bing spread his hands insincerely. I want to join. Little Spider-Man raised his right hand first. You're too young to pass, let's practice for a while. Luo Bing waved his hand. But, big brother Luo. You are as old as I am. Peter said unconvinced. I am the initiator, I'll set the rules. Luo Bing completely ignored Peter's protest. That's a good suggestion. What's the name of our team? Stark asked curiously. Everyone looked at each other and then spoke at the same time. Luo Bing, Justice League? 35 Steve, Veteran Howlers. Stark, Steel Legion. Natasha Romanoff, Women's Guard. Little Spider-Man was stunned for a while, raised his right hand again. How about calling it the Spider Family? Why don't you forget it? Luo Bing rolled his eyes. Let's talk about it later. Stark was very speechless about the ability to name everyone, although his own name was not much better. I really think the Veteran Howler is a good name, Steve said earnestly. Come on, Captain, there are still 2 minors at the scene. Natasha Romanoff stroked her long hair and was speechless. Everyone disagreed, and the superhero team came to an end. Chapter 63. There are simply too many bodies on the streets of Queens. It takes a long time to clean up these things, and in order to prevent secondary infection, this kind of thing is best left to professional people. Facing the reporters' long guns and short guns, Luo Bing just made a trick roar to the audience all over the world. The reporters were very pleasantly surprised tonight. Even the Bugle Daily, which has always been against superhero, has become a licking dog, and almost all news stations broadcast the deeds of these heroes. The returning Captain America has been highly sought after by the older generation. And little Spider-Man became an idol in the minds of children. Tony, a playboy, is undoubtedly the dream of most teenagers. The dreamlike steel armor is dazzling, and the gold and red color scheme is enough to make everyone yearn for it. As for Natasha Romanoff, it is estimated that many idiots before the screen want to drink her bath water. A well-known basketball player has expressed this idea on his Twitter, and everyone else can imagine. But no matter how much other people show, the protagonist tonight is still Luo Bing. For audiences in the world, Batman is undoubtedly the first superhero in modern history, and Luo Bing did not put on his mask that night, revealing his true face. Some reporters joked that if Batman did not become a superhero and became a star, it is estimated that all Hollywood movie stars would lose their jobs. This man is so handsome that he is unreasonably handsome. Unexpectedly, Black Knight Robin became the dark horse prince in the eyes of all girls. The main thing is that Robin's dress really doesn't match up with Prince Charming. That night, Fury and Phil Coulson called one after another to check on the situation. This time, they completely missed the Resident Evil in Queens. Tonight, S.H.I.E.L.Ds big file size and small command were all given by Fury's assistant, Hill. The one-eyed black marinated egg seems to be dealing with other important things, including Phil Coulson, the courtesan, who has also been dispatched by him. Even Hawkeye Barton was there. Luo Bing didn't ask much, he was already busy enough today, he just wanted to go back to bed and take a good night's sleep. If there was anything else, I'll talk about it another day. Luo Bing was also promoted to the 10th level agent of SHIELD. This is also the first S.H.I.E.L.D agent with level 10 authority, which is consistent with the authority of Black Braised Egg. Perhaps this is also a gesture of favor from SHIELD. After all, they also know that Luo Bing is no longer under the jurisdiction of SHIELD. Who dares to control a god? Did you know this guy slaughtered 10,000 lizard zombies in half an hour? Stark took Luo Bing's ride back to the coast of Malibu with Luo Bing. Compared with flight, Luo Bing's random door was faster. Ethan is dead. The two of them were blowing the sea breeze, and did not go back to their respective houses directly, sitting on the shore chatting. I avenged him. Stark's expression was a little silent. Luo Bing also found out that since this incident, Stark seems to have become more introverted, and he no longer makes some tricks as before. Stark now looks more reliable. They're coming for me, there's a ghost in the Stark group, I suspect it's Obadiah. Tony took out a bottle of top-quality red wine from his home, took out 2 goblets, and filled them up. In Stark's villa, Sky and Pepper were chatting, looking outside from time to time, talking and laughing. Obadiah? Why do you think so? Isn't he your father's capable subordinate? Luo Bing didn't understand these things, and asked casually. He is in charge of the weapons department, and the weapons circulating on the black market are inseparable from him. Today I went to Afghanistan and I found the latest Jericho missiles produced 2 weeks ago. I refused to accept the contract of the military's shipment. I didn't expect 10 rings to get the first-hand weapon. What does it mean? Stark said, holding up his goblet. To Ethan, Luo Bing also picked up the goblet and drank it all. Tony was stunned, that's not how red wine is, but he shook his head and drank the red wine in the glass. Boss, you drank a supercar in one gulp, Tony teased. What? Luo Bing's face changed greatly. Prodigal son. He scolded, as if he was distressed for his money. Ha ha ha. Tony laughed unabashedly, and the greedy boss seemed more real, at least more like a human than an illusory god. The two blew the sea breeze recklessly and enjoyed the fine wine in the glass. Be careful yourself, don't die accidentally, you still have to make money for me. Luo Bing looked at the finished red wine bottle in front of him, not knowing why this unpleasant thing was so expensive. Don't worry, my life is very big, I can survive being kidnapped by terrorists. Looks like God doesn't want me to die, I have more to do, Tony said, shaking his glass. Boom rumble. There was a sudden muffled sound in the sky above. Hey? 39. Tony raised his head suspiciously. It's so fast, what is it? He froze in place, and after reacting, he immediately galloped towards the sky. No, it's a meteorite. Tony roared, raising his hands high, flames spewing from his feet, as if he wanted to catch the big meteorite. If this meteorite falls into the sea, it will directly trigger a tsunami that will submerge everything around it. Damn, I forgot to turn off the lucky halo. Luo Bing's head was as big as a bucket, and a golden skeleton was instantly derived from his body. Boom! Tony collided with the meteorite and turned into a pile of scrap metal. Why did you really die in an accident? Am I awakening a skill like a crow's mouth? Luo Bing looked at Tony, who was smashed into meat patties, and subconsciously wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. Senior White's smile. It's so terrifying. Do you want to be able to summon meteorites every time? Without hesitation, Luo Bing swiped the time dial. Boss, you drank one. Instant. A shadow flashed. Luo Bing dragged Tony and disappeared in place. Little Pepper and Sky in the room looked out of the window suspiciously, and the two who were chatting there didn't know where they went. It must be fooling around, I tell you, Sky, men are like this, especially Tony. Pepper snorted and curled his lips. No? I believe Luo Bing is not that kind of person. Sky shook his head. He is still young and will be damaged. Zhao Qian's, you have to start early, otherwise it will be too late to regret it, Xiao Chili reminded. Sky lowered his head and mumbled, as if thinking about something. In the wilderness of no man's land, Luo Bing and Tony stared at the meteorite that was still burning in front of them. I just saved your life. Luo Bing put away the golden Susa and immediately closed his lucky halo. I know, you just transformed and blocked this meteorite. Tony nodded. Chun. No, you don't know, you've already died once. Luo Bing rolled his eyes and said something inexplicable, which made Tony confused. What does it mean that I have already died once? I'm still alive and well. What is this meteorite? I couldn't cut it at all, and it was knocked away so far. Luo Bing asked with a frown. Let me take a closer look. Tony pressed a button on his forehead, releasing an infrared scanning beam. FK. It's vibranium. Tony jumped in shock. Chapter 64. Vibranium. Of all the metals known, this thing is definitely the most precious and rare thing. Vibranium was first discovered in Hitler's time, when Tony's father mixed vibranium and other metals to make a shield for Steve. It is also the most convenient star and stripe shield that Steve has been using so far, and it is also the symbol of Captain America. Vibranium is very hard, and its special molecular structure makes it almost indestructible, because its molecules are relatively static, so that it hardly conducts heat and kinetic energy, which allows it to absorb heat, energy and kinetic energy. This is why Luo Bing was knocked flying just now. You seem to be saying what the FK? Where did you learn it? Luo Bing didn't quite understand the preciousness of vibranium. In his mind, it was just a pile of metal. Metal, what's the use? Is it worth it? It's worth the money. Tony said. How much is it worth? Luo Bing asked disdainfully. You can buy 3 of our Stark group. Stark said suddenly resentfully. What the hell? Luo Bing blurted out. Many foreigners can't be happy to say shit, they can only say 780 to buy karma, and sometimes it is really a pity for them. I'm only talking about theoretically, this thing is too rare. Steve's shield is made of vibranium and some kind of material, made by my father, Tony explained. Luo Bing then nodded. You say vibranium is valuable, it is indeed valuable, and it is indeed rare. But if you really want to use this thing to replace the Stark Group Empire, unless you have a bag in your head. Vibranium is still very useful, but it doesn't conduct energy well on Mark's armor, it feels a bit wasteful. Tony stroked his chin. If he does build a suit of armor out of vibranium, it means he has a tortoise shell for absolute defense. But the attack may not be as powerful, and also loses the flight ability. Because vibranium can't conduct energy, everything that needs energy to drive will not work, and he can only build melee weapons to fight. But that's the exact equivalent of having Iron Man cut off his arm. The best material is not the best, and Tony won't use vibranium until he finds a solution. Maybe, Bafa, can also use a small part to strengthen their defense? I don't care. Luo Bing's eyes lit up. I don't need your bells and whistles, and I don't want full body armor. By the way, wouldn't it be so easy to roll the blades out of the gadgets? The most annoying thing about Luo Bing is that he is too strong and does not have a suitable weapon. The steel cutting knife has to be replaced with a new one. Often it is too troublesome, and he can only use his fist. Definitely yes, but it takes a lot of effort to cut this thing. I haven't come across it before, maybe I can look up my father's notes and experiment, Tony said. Cut. Can I? Luo Bing said, waving his hand and throwing out a space cut, directly cutting off a vibranium the size of a book. Boss, how can you do anything? Are you really Tinkerbell? Tony looked at Luo Bing speechlessly. Shut up, I'm not a cat. Luo Bing had a black line on his face and was about to use the gag. Tony immediately begged for mercy. Old rules. The two dug a hole on the spot and buried the big guy. In fact, Luo Bing felt that his divine power seemed to have the ability to store space. But he hasn't tested it yet, so he didn't make any claims. The thing exiled this thing to a different dimension, wouldn't it be a blood loss? Barry 1 is also buried, Barry 2 is also buried. No difference. Anyway, one is in the desert and the other is in a no-man's land. Basically, no one will find such a place. Tony is undoubtedly a technophile. After encountering new materials, he can study excitedly all night without sleeping. Luo Bing is not as masochistic as he is, and the two returned to the coast of Malibu. One vibranium with the book file size walked into the lab, and the other took Sky straight home to sleep. Definitely. Each sleeps separately. Luo Bing was very exhausted today, and when he got back to bed, he fell asleep quickly in a daze. At 12 o'clock in the morning, Luo Bing vaguely heard the notification sound of power refresh. The exhausted Luo Bing did not respond, and continued to roll over and fell asleep. He had a dream. I don't know if this is a prophecy dream. He dreamed that a large number of aliens fell from the sky, and he and a group of superheroes were guarding the city. This time the dream is very real. Luo Bing once again saw the guy with the hammer, not only that, but also a terrifying green giant baby. I saw a big hammer in 2 consecutive dreams. That means the long-haired tramp singer with a hammer seems to really exist. At 6 o'clock in the morning, Luo Bing yawned, recalled the scene in his dream, and stretched. At what point in time did this all happen? That sparkling gem seems like it's worth a lot of money. Luo Bing touched his chin and logged into his s.h.i.e.l.d background management page on Friday. He found records about the Tesseract, but with his 10th level clearance, he didn't find any relevant records about that gleaming scepter. In other words, this thing is not a product of the Earth. At least this point in time hasn't come to Earth yet. Tesseract Tianma Project Cree. So there are so many things that I don't know. Luo Bing touched his chin and got a general understanding of what happened in s.h.i.e.l.d in the past. However, some things are not stored in the s.h.i.e.l.d files at all, and even if Luo Bing has the 10th level agent authority, he cannot check the relevant records at all. Just like the Tianma plan. Luo Bing can only know that the scientists at that time conducted an experiment, which seems to have led to the invasion of the Kree, which is also the first known contact with aliens of the third type in history. However, there is not much description in the detailed file. Never mind. Luo Bing shook his head, and then he took time to look up the unread power tips in his mind. Looking at this, Luo Bing was speechless. It may be because I went to bed too early last night and forgot to turn on the lucky halo at 12 o'clock. This time the ability seems to be a bit tasteless. Sign in successfully. Today's power don't ask, I'll call you Zhong-san has been issued. Please enjoy it. At first, Luo Bing was curious about what kind of power this was. After reading the skill introduction again, he was dumbfounded. Don't ask, just call you Zhong-san, you can change someone else's name to Zhong-san. Chapter 65. Can you change someone's name to Zhong-san? What's the use of this feather power? Maybe it's because of the habit of using lucky and high-quality abilities in the past few days, and Luo Bing still has a little nostalgia for this occasional garbage ability. Luo Bing rolled his eyes, got up from the bed, and started a day of training. His goal today is very simple, that is, to master the power of his own eyes, and then give this new state a name. Would you like to call Zhong-san Z pupil? Forget it, it's still a kaleidoscope writing wheel eye. 35 Luo Bing came up with a name in a daze, and it felt very appropriate, so it was finalized. In fact, this is not a random name. When the 3 Gojade writing round eyes evolved, Luo Bing had this name in his mind. Just like Amaterasu and Shinwei and Susanoo. Speaking of which, Luo Bing's Sharingan was completely developed in the way of the good friends of the 7th Naruto at the beginning. It stands to reason that after awakening Kaleidoscope, ability should be exactly the same as that of the 7th Naruto good friend. It's just that Luo Bing is relying on the Kaleidoscope of awakening, the self-awareness of the immortal body, and with his ability to be familiar with space, his eyes have changed slightly. His hexagram is golden. Amaterasu. Orangutan burning black flames appeared out of nowhere, burning the air on the side. During the day, Amaterasu's flames look even more eerie. Luo Bing has never seen the flames black, and it was not very obvious last night. After all, it was covered by darkness. Amaterasu's ability is also attached to the existence of space ability. This flame was not generated out of thin air, but was transferred from a secret space. The spatial coordinates were very blurry, and Luo Bing couldn't distinguish it. It seemed to be the space that had been set by the left eye from the beginning. If Luo Bing can accurately capture the spatial coordinates, the enemy can even be directly exiled into the world of Amaterasu. But for now, Luo Bing can't do it. Shinwei is a good ability that can attack and defend. After a morning of research, Luo Bing has been able to skillfully use this ability from the right eye. Maybe it was because he already had a good foundation of space ability. Luo Bing's proficiency in Shinwei was a bit higher than Amaterasu's. Kamui has two abilities. The principle of the first ability is the same as that of Amaterasu. When Luo Bing's line of sight is focused, the space at the focus of his eyes will be distorted, and a vortex black hole will be generated. Or the hole is dragged into the Kamui space. Shinwei space is also the second ability of Shinwei. It's a defensive skill. At present, Luo Bing doesn't know how big the Shinwei space is. There are cubes all over it, like a void space. There is oxygen in it, but you can't feel the changes in time and space, but in fact the time and space inside are consistent with the real world, but the empty cube and dim space make people unable to find a reference. It also makes those who are in it do not know how long time has passed. It's a magical world. It seems to be within the space node between reality and it is an independent space. After getting acquainted with it for a morning, Luo Bing can even inhale himself into the Shinwei space and release it into the real world with projection to confuse the enemy. But this fighting style is not his style. What makes Luo Bing most gratifying is the storage function of Shinwei space. Space ability does not store storage and can be called space ability. Luo Bing returned to the Sahara Desert, swept the buried meteorite into the world of Shinwei, and then went to the no man's land to do the same. He is not at ease when the baby is placed outside, it is better to hide it at home. Before, because the target was too big, Luo Bing couldn't use the portal meteorite and was left outside. Space warped, inside Stark's basement. A wormhole-like vortex slowly rotates. From the visual effect, Luo Bing came out of the black hole in a twisted shape. This is the teleportation ability that comes with Shinwei space. But very tasteless. Luo Bing finally knew what the cube in the Shinwei space was. It turned out that the guy used to locate the space nodes. Make an analogy. Luo Bing wants to use Shinwei space's teleport ability to move from New York to Russia. First of all, he has to drill into the world of Shinwei, then find the space node that belongs to the destination in the world of Shinwei, and then open up Shinwei. 4 flowers, 0. This is very troublesome, although the distance between the spatial coordinates in the Shinwei space is very close, but it is not as good as Luo Bing's flash. Maybe this is not a teleportation at all, this is a complete shortcut. How can you call teleportation if you can't do teleportation? But, handsome. This way of playing is slow and crap, and when he really comes out of the long spin, he will have caught the attention of the enemy. The weirdness of space cannot be brought into play at all. But handsome. Just be handsome. Whatever it does. Maybe Luo Bing can try to combine divine power with his space ability. He had come up with the ability of space cutting before. 0 yawn. Tony seemed to have stayed up all night with dark circles under his eyes. Seeing Luo Bing's strange appearance, he first tilted his head, then shook his head, taking it for granted. After all, he was the boss and had new operations every day. I brought the meteorite, where do I put it? Luo Bing asked, frowning at Tony. This guy hasn't slept since 12 noon? Do you know that there was a big battle last night, and the energy is so strong? Shipped? I have a warehouse underground, come on, I'll show you, Tony said, calling out Jarvis. Immediately afterwards, the living room in the basement descended, reaching the bottom like a staircase. This is a hall, and there are many display cabinets in the hall. One of the display cases is holding a Mark II, but there seems to be a new Mark series armor to the right of the Mark II. Hey, I spent one night working out the Mark III. The experiment, the chest, and the most critical head were made of vibranium material, and then I installed a mysterious weapon on him. Tony said with a smile. Mysterious weapon? Luo Bing was puzzled. It's a laser beam. After last night, I realized the horror of large monsters, so I added a little improvement, Tony said, walking to another display case. It's just that this display cabinet is blocked, and the interior scene cannot be seen from the outside. Shoo! Tony pressed a button. A black gold semi-finished armor appeared in Luo Bing's eyes. Chapter 66. The black and gold armor is more like medieval knight armor. It looks very cool from the outside, the black and gold lines are particularly eye-catching, and a cloak is reserved behind him. It's not ready yet, where is the meteorite? With vibranium material, I can build it better, Tony said, looking at Luo Bing. Make a place for me. Luo Bing looked around. The space here is big enough, but because the meteorite is too big to carry, it's better to put a place in advance. Here. Tony ran to a corner. That's where he parked the helicopter before. But now that he has the Iron Man armor, he doesn't need things like airplanes, and he threw them aside. Luo Bing, although 2 days had passed, he was still not used to being a rich man. Boom sounded. 780 meteorites were taken out by Luo Bing from Shenwei space. The boss's magic has become more and more high-level. Stark is ashamed. As a representative of the scientific community, he has become accustomed to this kind of things that cannot be explained by known science. Let's put it here, do you want me to cut it? Luo Bing pointed to the rough vibranium stone and asked. I've read my father's notes, just need to overclock the vibration to passivate it, and it can be melted with ultra-high temperature, Stark vowed and waved his hand. He's a genius, otherwise he wouldn't have improved the Mark III armor so quickly. Okay, I'll leave it to you. Luo Bing nodded. The space in which he was standing began to distort, and finally turned into a black hole and sucked him in. Tony, when will I be able to do this with science? Maybe he can also find time to study space jumping devices? Now that the energy source of the spaceship is available, there is still a lack of space jumping device. With that device, Stark can swim in the universe. After the new material arrived, the workaholic Stark drank a big bottle of coffee and started his research work day and night. If Chili was here, it would have discouraged Stark from taking a break. It's a pity that this morning she had been entrusted by Tony with a secret mission to copy hidden files on Obadiah's computer. In the afternoon, the New York City Police Department was dispatched, and Obadiah, the nominal vice president of the Stark Group, was pressed into the police car with an ugly face. The charge is to carry out kidnapping with terrorists. Stark's assistant, Pepper Potts, found on VP Obadiah's computer a video of himself and the 10 rings that had not been destroyed. And in Obadiah's private laboratory, Stark also found the crude Iron Overlord armor. It's just an unfinished version, it can't be seen or can't be used, and the core energy is lacking. The incident caused a stir as soon as it came out. According to word of mouth, Obadiah was smashed to pieces by the rumors. Certainly, it is not just the fishing boat pressure that awaits him, he is about to face the legal punishment of life imprisonment. Stark is not soft-hearted at all, the other party already wants his life, and it is very kind that he can save Obadiah's life. The news spread so fast that even Luo Bing, who was in Northern Europe, learned about it. It seems that Stark judged correctly. In the Nordic S.H.I.E.L.D. secret base. It's this thing, we've been working on it for 2 days and still can't do anything about it, Phil Coulson frowned. Hammer. Luo Bing frowned. Accurately speaking, it is an immovable hammer. This thing comes from outside the sky, and it is probably the product of other civilizations. We have tried it, and whether it is pulled by a trailer or lifted by a large device, there is no way for him to move at all, Hey Braised Egg said aside. Several people stayed in the crater, which had been secretly isolated, and a defensive net was set up around it. The scientists who entered back and forth wore heavy chemical protective suits and held instruments to detect various components on the scene. Have you seen a guy with blonde hair dressed like a wandering singer? Luo Bing asked suddenly. What? Wandering singer? Haven't seen this one yet. Phil Coulson shook his head. Right at the moment. An agent walked in, glanced at the 3 people in the observation room, nodded and saluted. Report, Senior Hawkeye caught a sneaky guy, the guy dressed like a wandering singer, insisted that he was Thor in Norse mythology, and said you mortals, let go of this prince, class words. I suspect there may be something wrong with that guy's mental state. After listening to the report, Phil Coulson and Black Braised Egg looked at Luo Bing at the same time. What a coincidence. Do you know something? Luo Bing shrugged, I'm not sure, I just dreamed about something. Dream. Black Braised Egg frowned, expressing incomprehension to Luo Bing's words. It's similar to a precognition dream, but I haven't tested it yet, and I don't know if it works or not, but I'm pretty sure that I've seen this thing in my dreams. Luo Bing pointed to the silver hammer in the isolation bin. Psychic. Phil Coulson blinked, a question mark on his face. Go see that guy, Luo Bing suggested. Okay. Phil Coulson and the black marinated egg nodded, and the three walked towards the room where Thor was being held. Barton at the moment is wiping his arrows, and his job here is to guard the area and prevent other spies from breaking in. He's passed out, Barton said, looking at the three people walking down the hallway. Let me see. Luo Bing walked over and studied it carefully for a while. That's right, it's this gay guy, Luo Bing confirmed. Gay guy. Phil Coulson and the black marinated egg have black lines on their faces, definitely. The black lines of the black marinated eggs are not obvious. I mean, in my dream he was a passionate gangster, dressed in armor, holding a hammer, wearing a red cape, mastering thunder and lightning, and fighting a robot with light-eyed eyes, Luo Bing explained. But, he's weak, Barton frowned. Before, he easily took down this reckless big man. I don't know that. Luo Bing shook his head. 5.0 He has always said that the hammer is his, only he can hold it, Barton said after thinking for a while. So he's really the Thor of Norse mythology. Phil Coulson's face was full of disbelief. Perhaps, those gods are just a bunch of aliens, said the black marinated egg, turning his head to look at Luo Bing. Look at me, I'm not an alien. Luo Bing rolled his eyes. Fury's reasoning for this speculation has his own basis. The powerful girl he knew was called a god on some remote planets. If Earth was visited by a group of aliens long ago, it would not be surprising to leave the story behind. Wake him up whether he's the Thor or not, we need to figure out what he's here for, Fury said, and asked his agent to prepare a basin of water. Puff. A bucket of ice water was poured directly on Thor's face. Chapter 67. Cough, cough. A bucket of ice water poured down his head, and Thor choked so badly, he got up from the ground. Where is this? Let me out. You Midgard natives. Thor rubbed his face angrily, his expression very aggrieved. The four led by Luo Bing glanced at each other speechlessly. You figured out the wandering singer, it was you who broke in, Fury said with a dark face, and he also felt that Luo Bing's nickname was very appropriate. Wandering singer, what is that? Sophistry. That's why you stole my hammer. Damn, Thor's face was tsundere, the reason why he rushed in here in such a hurry was to get back his hammer and restore his divine power. Stolen? That thing fell from the sky, why do you say it's yours? Anything on Earth belongs to Earthlings, have you registered a patent, have you registered a trademark? Fury threw a few questions in a row. Thor looked confused. His mind couldn't understand what the Midgard natives around him were saying. But in terms of feeling, Thor felt that these guys just wanted to hack their own hammer. After all, his hammer is an artifact, in which a core that destroys the 14 fixed star is sealed. It's normal for others to be jealous. I don't know what you're talking about, that's Mjolnir, only I, as Thor, can pick it up, don't think about it, you're not qualified to pick up Mjolnir at all. Thor shouted loudly. This rough guy has always been so arrogant. God? I've never seen such a weak god. Barton pouted in disdain. That's... Thor looked embarrassed. The fact that he has been sealed with divine power cannot be known by outsiders. Even if he is so nervous, Thor will not fool himself into exposing his weakness. You said you were Thor, do you have any proof? For example, let's set off an electric spark to see. Luo Bing asked with interest. Thor was startled. With his divine power sealed, he is no different from the natives of Midgard. At most, it can be beaten. How can I prove myself? Mjolnir. Only I can afford Mjolnir, that's proof. Thor's eyes lit up and he said suddenly. Luo Bing and the others looked at each other again. Due to the influence of Luo Bing's dream prophecy, at the moment, apart from Hawkeye, Phil Coulson and Fury actually had a little bit of confidence in the identity of the guy in front of him. It's just that this Thor is so low that they don't have the confidence to really believe it. Is there something like a fingerprint unlock on it? We have to make sure that if he picks up the hammer, he won't pose a threat to Earth. Consultant Luo, are we sure we can take him down? Fury asked while rubbing his head. No problem, Luo Bing is very confident. Let him try, then Phil Coulson looked at Luo Bing. Yeah, Luo Bing also nodded in agreement. What? Are you really willing to give me the hammer back? Thor listened, his mouth almost crooked. Don't get me wrong, it's not yet proven that this thing is yours, you have to pick it up and talk about it. Fury struck with a black face. Ha ha ha, I didn't expect your Midgard natives to be so savage. Don't worry, I will go back with a hammer, I don't want to stay in this ghost place for a moment. Thor looked excited, and finally had opportunity to restore power. Follow me. Luo Bing led the way, and several people walked towards the isolation warehouse. Would you like to wear radiation protection equipment? Phil Coulson hesitation asked. No, the radiation here has no effect on the human body, I can feel it, Luo Bing said, lifted the protective curtain, and walked in first. Thor's speed was even faster than Luo Bing, and excitedly ran to the crater ahead. Phil Coulson, Fury, and the others glanced at each other and followed. Inside the crater, the Meow Meow hammer lay there quietly, the ground around it was scorched black, and the entire hammer stood proudly inside the crater, looking very extraordinary. Meow Meow hammer, here I come. Thor excitedly spread out, holding the hammer handle with one hand. Ha ha ha, I'm Thor. Thor stopped abruptly when he read the usual lines, and the Meow Meow hammer remained motionless on the ground. Wait, maybe it's because I haven't seen each other for 2 days, I'm a little unfamiliar, well, this time I'm going to be serious. Thor smiled awkwardly at everyone, and then put his hands on the hammer handle, and then apply force instantly. Rise. More than 10 seconds passed, and the Meow Meow hammer remained motionless. How is that possible? How is this possible? Thor used all his strength in disbelief, and desperately pulled the hammer upward, like a bald man pulling a radish. Pity. No matter how hard he tried, the hammer still wouldn't move. Okay, wandering singer, I know, you're here to make trouble. Fury's face darkened. No. It's not like this. No. Father. Why? Thor pulled the hammer desperately, his emotions were very excited, if it wasn't for the presence of outsiders, he could almost cry. It was so frustrating for him that he was exiled to Earth, lost his powers, and was hit by a car from an indigenous woman in Midgard. Now even Meow Meow hammer doesn't recognize his qualifications. Is Thor, the dignified 9th-year-old, going to live such a mediocre life on Midgard? He was not reconciled. He is really unhappy. Meow Meow hammer. Get me up. Thor used all his strength, holding the belief that he would fight to the death, and desperately exerted his strength. Buzz. The Meow Meow hammer seemed to be stimulated by Thor's actions, and trembled in place, but then returned to normal. No matter how hard Thor tried, there was no response. How could this be? Thor slumped helplessly in the crater, like a defeated rooster. Don't be too sad, your hammer may have been smashed when it fell, and the fingerprint recognition system may be out of order. 780 Luo Bing walked over, looked at Thor, who was heartbroken, and smiled and comforted. He had seen this guy's demeanor in a prophecy dream. Although he didn't know what happened, Luo Bing still believed in this guy's words. No. The Meow Meow hammer isn't broken, it's just that I don't have the qualifications to lift it. Thor shook his head and slammed his fist into the ground. Qualification? Did you forget your password? Luo Bing walked to Thor's side and looked at Meow Meow hammer curiously. The hammer was covered with mysterious textures, and it was not the language of the earth at all. Qualifications, not passwords, only those who are absolutely righteous are qualified to lift it, Thor said with a sigh. Oh. Luo Bing wondered, reaching for the hammer handle. It's useless, it's even more impossible for you Midgards, this is an artifact, only the Aesir Protoss have the qualifications. Thor's words were normal, the whole person froze in place, his eyes widened like bells, and he didn't dare to look straight at the handsome young man beside him. It's not too heavy. Luo Bing flipped the hammer in his hand, looking confused. PS, I went to take the high-speed train, and the rest of the updates will be sent in the afternoon after Nanjing. Chapter 68. Luo Bing flipped the hammer from side to side twice, and found that it was quite easy to use. With a little force, the hammer was swung into the shape of a big windmill, and roar roar made a sound. It seemed that the hammer could affect the airflow in the sky. As the hammer swung, muffled thunder was constantly heard in the sky. It's amazing. However, this operation caused Thor to bite his tongue directly. How is it possible for you, it's impossible, how can you? Thor was so shocked that he couldn't even speak. It's very light, are you sure you're not acting? This hammer basically has no weight, Luo Bing said with a frown. Thor, Barton shook his head, I tried it, and it feels like this thing has grown with the earth, how did you do it? 35 No, it may be that Meow Meow's hammer is broken. Thor was still muttering to himself in his doubtful life. Bang Luo Bing threw the hammer in front of Thor and waved his hand curiously, will you try again? Thor immediately grabbed the hammer and used his milk-feeding strength, but the Meow Meow hammer remained motionless. So the big blonde man became more suspicious of life, sitting on the ground in a daze, not knowing what was going on in his mind. I'll try it. Phil Coulson walked over curiously, grabbing the handle of the Meow Meow hammer. Looks like I can't. He shrugged happily and made a helpless expression. Fury also stepped forward curiously and tried too hard, his forehead was covered with black veins, and he also spread his hands. This thing is so weird, why can you pick it up? Fury asked curiously. How do I know, maybe it's because I'm handsome. Luo Bing pursed his lips, he didn't know the reason. You're not a Midgard? Are you a Protoss? Otherwise, how could you possibly pick up the Meow hammer? Thor was a little broken, his own hammer was picked up by someone else, but he was disqualified. What does this mean? Midgard? You've been calling us roar just now, wandering singers, this is Earth, not Midgard, are you on drugs? Fury frowned, feeling bad. No, you are Midgards, maybe you don't know, this C-53 planet is in Midgard in the Nine Realms, and lives on the same tree as we are. About 965 AD, the ice giant led his men to invade Midgard, which led to Midgard entering the Ice Age. After my father Odin learned about it, he led an army to Earth. He also lost an eye in that war. Thor vowed. Then he looked at Luo Bing, I suspect that you are the descendant of Asgard that we left behind when we visited Earth, otherwise you would not be able to lift the Meow Meow hammer. You suspect a ball. Luo Bing curled his lips, not wanting to deal with this shit. The reason why he was able to pick up this hammer might be due to the influence of his Wushao immortal physique. The Wushao immortal body method is non-invasive and can break all prohibitions. Naturally, the seal that Odin left on the Meow Meow hammer will not work. This guy's brains can almost go to Lu Fei to write novels. Fury pouted, although he wanted to believe it, but this guy looked very unreliable. Report, 2 women and an old man broke into the door, saying they were looking for a lost and silly son. An agent hurried over. Lost. Silly son. Luo Bing turned to look at Thor. Thor, 35 I'm not stupid, I'm not crazy, I'm telling the truth, I'm the son of Odin. Thor collapsed. Unfortunately, there is no way to prove his identity now. Okay, Mr. Prince, maybe you should follow the doctors to Slice to study. As for your identity, it will be revealed soon. Fury smiled kindly. What? Slice. 35 No. You can't do this to me. 35 I'm sorry I said wrong, I have mental problems, I'm not Thor, I'm the stupid son they are looking for, let me out. Thor looked terrified, he didn't want to be helpless. It was studied by this group of indigenous people. It's not a matter of dying. It's so embarrassing. He is Thor, the god of war. 9 worlds are proud of the world, and there are countless battlefields. He is almost 1,500 years old. If he is really pulled by a group of natives and sliced, he will go crazy. It's up to you. Luo Bing smiled handsomely. But that smile was so terrifying in Thor's eyes at the moment, it was like a demon. Thor yelled and was dragged out by Barton, staring at the ground frantically before leaving, unwilling to leave. Is it really good for you to scare him like that? Phil Coulson frowned helplessly. What he said may be true. Although this guy doesn't look dangerous, it may cause some trouble. Immediately mobilize the agent to be alert. Fury said softly. Slicing is what evil scientists do. They just want to take a little blood from the singer. 6 I saw a robot with laser eyes in my dream. It's more powerful than Tony's Mark series armor. We have to figure out how they came to Earth. Luo Bing twitched the hammer in his hand and couldn't put it down. You have to be careful, it's not a good thing to hit your foot with this thing, I think it's safer to keep this thing in the S.H.I.E.L.D vault. Fury stroked his chin, looking serious. S.H.I.E.L.D vault. Safe. Luo Bing raised his eyebrows playfully. Then, he instantly disappeared in place. About 3 to 5 seconds later, Luo Bing teleported back with a glowing cube isolated with a special transparent material. Well, this is what you guys hid. It looks pretty good. It should be good for lighting at night. Luo Bing shrugged and teased. Fury, Zhao Qian's, ... Phil Coulson scratched his head, he hadn't even seen this thing a few times. Why did you take it out, and return it quickly? This thing is very dangerous and highly corrosive. Fury stared anxiously. What are you doing? How did you just break into the S.H.I.E.L.D vault so casually? Pure. Can you give me some face? D. Fury's emergency phone rang, and the agent was sweating profusely reporting a 10th level event to him. I see, it's okay, you don't have to worry about it. Fury wiped the cold sweat from his forehead speechlessly. This thing doesn't seem to be something on Earth, I can feel a huge amount of space energy. By the way, what is this thing? Luo Bing asked curiously. We usually call this thing Tesseract, but it's not for lighting at night. Fury almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. Chapter 69. Things that emit light are not used for lighting but are locked in the laboratory. It's a waste. Luo Bing curled his lips in disdain. Ancestor. This is much stronger than a light bulb. The black marinated egg had a headache. To tell you the truth, we are currently developing a super powerful laser weapon, and the Tesseract is the most important research item. Fury covered his face and said this top secret. Laser weapon? Isn't that what Red Skull does? How did S.H.I.E.L.D fix this? Luo Bing frowned. There's no way, there are more and more perverts. You have also seen the biochemical lizardman a few days ago. If S.H.I.E.L.D is not updated, it can't stop the rhythm of other lunatics. Fury is one big head and too big. But this is just a backup plan. My original purpose is to set up an agent team composed of superhero. The idea for the laser weapon was proposed by Pierce and it was approved by members of parliament, explained Fury. Pierce? Oh, that guy who likes to reject newcomers. Luo Bing was not very impressed with the old guy. After all, when he first met him, Beast almost reacted instinctively. That old BD isn't something to get along with. Pierce rejects newcomers? You must be admitting the wrong person, right? Fury frowned. Pierce under his influence has always been mature and stable, a very reliable senior. 780 after all, Fury was promoted by Pierce. I was there, but, ah. Phil Coulson laughed awkwardly. Luo Bing mentioned this to him at the time, but he was not blind, and Minister Pierce was also very polite in the elevator. How come Mr. Luo Bing has become an old BD? Fury rolled his eyes, quickly dismissing it as a misunderstanding. Ancestor, don't interrupt, return the Tesseract first. Just now, the S.H.I.E.L.D level 10 alert has been reported. Although I suppressed it, it will be bad after a long time. Those counselors know about it and want to find me again. Trouble. Fury was about to cry. Let me study it for 2 days, this thing has room for ability, I'll give it to you after I've researched it thoroughly. Luo Bing moved the suitcase to his back. Fury wiped his cold sweat. Not now, now is the critical period of the second stage of weapon research and development. In 2 days, half a month later, you can get it yourself. Also. Luo Bing thought about it and nodded. Anyway, the spatial coordinates on this thing are so large that it can't even run. If you have time, you can go to the S.H.I.E.L.D vault for research. By the way, let's see if there is anything good to borrow and use. Instant Luo Bing disappeared in place. Instant Luo Bing appeared again, holding an exaggerated weapon in his hand. Is this the laser weapon you're talking about? Luo Bing asked. You, where have you been? Fury wiped the cold sweat from his brow again. This thing has Tesseract energy, it's very well positioned, and I didn't mess around. By the way, I used a small cleaning technique to clean the warehouse for you before leaving. Luo Bing waved his hand and said. Thank you. Fury covered his face with one hand. Phil Coulson on the side looked at Fury and Luo Bing next to him, his embarrassed face stiffened. I have laser weapons, can you make me a laser sword? Luo Bing waved the gun in his hand. You can be careful. This thing is not stable, as for the laser sword you want? Sorry, no, it is too difficult to stabilize the energy bullet form, the laser sword is not so easy to do, there is currently no way to restrain the energy. A sword-shaped beam of light. Fury spread his hands. If it could be made into a lightsaber, he would be very happy. There are many agents in the organization who like melee weapons. Luo Bing is a melee weapon consumption leader. Half of the scrapped weapons in the recycling station are his. Why don't you find Tony? He is much better than your researcher. Luo Bing frowned in confusion. When you say this, I'm going to ask you, how is Tony's steel armor made, and how does he charge the armor? It's unscientific. Fury leaned his head curiously. The task of rescuing Tony was handled by Luo Bing. He should know many details, such as how the armor is made, what materials are needed and so on, before. It would be perfect if S.H.I.E.L.D could have an army of Iron Man. It would be unimaginable, even if there were any alien invasion of Earth, they would have to go back crying. It's very simple. Luo Bing rolled his eyes, as if you didn't know this. What's the secret? Fury furtively closed his ears. Because he's smart, he can make that thing in a small broken cave, and he doesn't know what your scientists do to eat. Oh, yes, except Figenma, they are my friends. Luo Bing shook his head contemptuously. Tony, he didn't plan to share the results of his work, he just walked out with a hammer. Fury had a black line on his face. That hammer. If you can handle it, move to the laboratory yourself. Luo Bing said, handing out the Meow Meow hammer in his hand. Fury 35, forget it, take it, anyway, in your dream, this thing is going to be returned to its original owner, right? Fury sighed. That's not necessarily, it depends on what the other party pays. Now this thing belongs to me, and I don't want to do business at a loss. Luo Bing said, the whole person threw the hammer and flew over. Fury is speechless again, have to. The nature of this guy's greed for money has not changed. This time, it even caught the attention of aliens. Forget it with him. We can't handle it anyway. Fury is a big head and too big, and the lady who gave her such a headache last time is now full of universes to save the world. This group of extraordinary bosses, one likes tossing more than the other. He is immortal, but he is really helpless. God, what have we done? I broke into the headquarters of the mysterious organization for 6 credits. Louise looked at Jane and Dr. Eric Shavig in the small house speechlessly, and the whole person was going crazy. No one has asked them since they were brought into the little house. Fear and helplessness crept into everyone's heart. I asked to see a lawyer, you can't keep us locked up like this. Jane Foster patted the window. It's a pity that the agents outside are all the same as Dead Man, and none of them pay attention to them. I knew that Thor was unreliable, why should we care about him? Louise complained non-stop, and the whole person was about to be bored and crazy. Squeak! The iron door was pushed open from the outside. Thor, who was stunned, was pushed in. Thor, how are you? Are you okay? Jane Foster ran over excitedly and asked anxiously. I don't know, they said they took me to Slice, but they gave me an injection, I suspect they might have injected me with some virus, those evil guys in white, they took my blood come out and compliment me on my good figure. Thor was very angry. Dr. Eric Shavig, in what you said should be called a medical examination, boy. Chapter 70. Look, I said he can fly. Fury looked up at Luo Bing, who flew away with a hammer, and glanced at Phil Coulson helplessly. It's really enviable. Phil Coulson also looked up, no one does not want to fly in the blue sky. Where is he going? I don't feel safe if he's not here. Fury glanced at the sun overhead, glanced in the direction Thor was being dragged away, and shook his head. When encountering such a mysterious event, you still have to use the mystery to defeat the mystery. Roar 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 roar. Meow hammer is spinning wildly in the sky. Like a helicopter. Luo Bing didn't originally have the flight ability, but under the gravity of the hammer, the whole person's flight was not a problem. The Meow Meow hammer didn't feel much weight in his hand, but in fact, the power of this thing was exaggerated. Luo Bing threw a whole hammer hard, and his whole body was carried by the Meow Meow hammer and flew towards the distant town quickly. It feels great. Luo Bing was a big roar, enjoying the unobstructed view of the city below him. Compared with the speed and convenience of teleportation, the body travels more freely in the atmosphere, but is it a bit annoying because of the roaring thunderclouds? The Meow Meow hammer can cause atmospheric changes in a certain range, probably because he has sealed a destruction fixed star inside. Kernel related. Bang! Luo Bing fell from the sky, not getting used to the brakes, and smashed a big hole in the street. God, look! It's Batman! Oh, so handsome, Batman! Batman! Because of Luo Bing's sudden appearance, passers-by began to shout frantically. In just one day, basically people all over the world know Luo Bing. Don't squeeze, let it all. Hey, guys, Luo Bing finally knew the troubles after becoming famous. He stepped into a notary's office. Hello, Batman, what can I do for you? The staff were so excited that they were going crazy. They didn't expect this kind of surprise on this ordinary and boring day. I'm going to apply for a patent for this thing, it's mine, Luo Bing said, handing the meow meow hammer. Okay. I mean okay, please put it on the table. The staff scratched his head embarrassingly, he was really too excited. Luo Bing put down the hammer directly. Bang! The entire table was crushed into powder, and meow meow hammer lay quietly on the ground. Sorry, I forgot that this guy might be a little heavy, Luo Bing said embarrassedly, for fear that others would ask him to lose money. No. It's okay, it's no big deal. The staff wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. As expected of Batman. The weapon in his hand is so heavy. It takes a lot of strength to hold it. It's amazing. Then, he picked up the tape measure and book, walked through the scene and started to register. Can I take the liberty to ask the origin of this hammer? The staff asked cautiously. Grab it, Luo Bing replied casually. Well. The staff wiped the cold sweat from their foreheads, and a minute later, the director of the notary office signed a patent certificate. Please put it away, welcome to come again. A group of people smiled brightly. Well, the service attitude is really good. Luo Bing nodded and walked away with a hammer. Yes, the purpose of his coming is to apply for a patent for the hammer. From today, the ownership of the hammer is his, don't you believe it? I have the certificate. In the desert 15 kilometers northwest of the fallen hammer base, a mysterious pattern suddenly appeared. On top of this pattern, 4 people in strange clothes flashed. They were all dressed in armor, and their hairstyles were quite unique. At first glance, they felt like warriors who came out of ancient myths. The 3 Asgard warriors and the Asgard female warrior Sif came to Earth. This is Midgard. Sif looked at the surrounding desert and asked, why does it feel more desolate than I thought? There is a small town in front of me. I seem to hear the roar whistle of meow meow hammer. Thor must be there. Fandral, one of the 3 warriors, pointed to the front and said. So, the man from Asgard swaggered towards the town. Because their images are too weird, they have attracted the attention of many people along the way. Luo Bing swung the hammer and was about to take off when he saw 4 people running in the distance. 3 males and 1 female, the females are quite beautiful, and they look like they are playing cosplay. However, from the aura, Luo Bing noticed at first glance that they were not ordinary people. Tor? Why have you changed your appearance? Is this Midgard disguised? Fandral looked at the man in front of him curiously, feeling that the current Tor looks very handsome. For flowers 0 are you Thor? Hogon, one of the 3 warriors, looked puzzled, feeling that something was wrong. However, only Thor can pick up the meow meow hammer. This is a fact that all Asgard people agree with. But at the moment Thor is listening to Loki's bragging with a heartbroken face. And right under the nose of Shield. It's a pity that no one can see him. Loki's magic is learned from the two's mother Frigga, especially in deceiving people, is very clever. Thor. Come with us back to Alaska to save the Father of God, now it's all under Loki's control. The ice giant is attacking again. One of the 3 warriors, Vorstag, rushed over with an anxious look on his face. Said. Tor. The man before the meeting was indifferent. The goddess of war Sif frowned and looked at Luo Bing suspiciously. 0 I'm not Thor, are you looking for a silly son? Luo Bing asked. Walter. The 4 looked at Luo Bing with bewildered expressions. Oh, it's the wandering singer, Luo Bing explained. Walter. The 4 of them looked at Luo Bing again with bewildered expressions. That's what you call Thor, Luo Bing explained again. What's wrong with Thor? Why do you have the meow meow hammer? No, why can you pick up the meow meow hammer? 35 The 4 people responded the same and questioned together. Because I'm handsome, Luo Bing told the truth again. Walter. The 4 of them were still confused. Are you repeaters? Luo Bing frowned, a little impatient. No, we're looking for Thor. Are you a Midgard or a Protoss? Fandral asked. Never mind your shit. Luo Bing was a little bored. These aliens looked arrogant than stupid sons. You're holding Thor's meow hammer, damn it, how can you pick up the meow hammer? Fondrel said angrily. Luo Bing turned around and took out the certificate from his pocket. First, this hammer is mine, with the certificate second, if you really want to go to Thor, I'll take you there. Bang 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 bang. Luo Bing knocked out 4 idiots with a hammer, and dragged his legs to pack and take away. TTB. But it's very dangerous, children A&D. Chapter 71. Earth, the holding room of the temporary base of SHIELD. Thor and the 4 fellow inmates on the opposite side waited with big eyes and small eyes. Jane and the doctor were called in for questioning, and now there are only 5 hapless Asgards in the house. Why are you here? Thor's eyes widened, thinking he was wrong. Forget it. However, since Thor you are here, let's go out together, leave this terrifying planet, and return to Asgard to rescue the King of God. Fondrel glanced out the window as he spoke, and did not see the after the handsome over-the-top guy. Roar let out a sigh of relief. What are you talking about? Isn't the father dead? Thor frowned. He was chatting with Loki just now, and the 2 brothers were completely moved. After learning that Odin was dead and Loki saved Asgard, Thor recognized this fact. Brother against himself. And because of the loss of divine power, his father died because of himself, and he would rather 7 or 80 to stay on the earth for a lifetime without going back to lose face. But now, his good brother tells him that the father is still alive? No, not at all, it's all Loki's conspiracy. That guy stole the casket of ancient winters, used the giants of Jotunheim to attack Asgard. Now the father of God is asleep, the whole Asgard is under Loki's control. Thor, we secretly ran down to tell you the truth. Fondrel said in one breath. Damn! I was tricked by Loki again. Thor was very annoyed, and slammed the ground in frustration. I don't know how many times, he was tricked again. Thor, let's go back immediately, don't worry about exile, Asgard needs help now, the father of God will forgive you. Sif, the goddess of war, said with a fist. No. No. I've almost lost my powers, and now I'm no different from the Midgards. Thor bowed his head and sighed, anxious and angry. But, the Midgards are very strong. Hogun muttered softly, turning his head to look out the window. The 4 of them still remember the horror of that Midgard. He defeated the 4 of them in an instant, and came here after waking up. Not only was his head hurting badly, but his weapons and equipment were all taken away. Midgard, what a horrible planet. If you can escape, you will never come to this ghost place again. Thor. The Midgards are a group of mortals, what's so powerful, are you also sealed with divine power? Thor asked with a frown. No. The 4 shook their heads. Then why are you still standing there? Let's break out directly, with the 4 of you, we can directly overthrow this group of natives, and then I'm looking for a way to restore my divine power and save Asgard. Thor flicked his sleeves, very of pride. It seems that at the moment he has regained that Thor's demeanor. But... Fondrel glanced out the window subconsciously again. What have you been worrying about? Thor was very puzzled. The 4 warriors of Asgard have never been afraid of anyone, why are they all different today? It's not Loki's trick again, right? Thor's nerves are now very sensitive to the word Loki. We really just broke out like this. Fondrel asked hesitation ally. What are you afraid of? Are you still afraid of these Midgards? Thor sneered disdainfully. There is a Midgard who is particularly powerful. He still has your meow meow hammer in his hand. We were thrown in by that guy, and our weapons and equipment were all robbed, Sif said resentfully. Fortunately, there was a set of clothes in her armor, or else it would have disappeared. The people of Midgard are really savage. They rob everything and give no boots. She is still barefoot. The person you are talking about is indeed a bit strange. I have seen him lift the meow hammer with my own eyes. I suspect that he may be a descendant of the Aesir Protoss. If he is really that powerful, now it's time for him to repay Asgard. Thor said arrogantly. Really? The 4 of them scratched their heads in confusion. Trust me. 33 Thor nodded solemnly. Afterwards, Asgard, the 4 fools, and the goddess of war, Sif, strode towards the door. Crack! Fondrel smashed the defensive iron gate with a fist. We're out! Thor let out a long roar. With his brother by his side, he felt much better, as if he had returned to the very adventurous days of roaming various secret realms in an instant. Bang! The hammer fell. Hearing the familiar sound, Thor turned his head suspiciously, only to find that the 4 people who were beside him before had returned to the isolation warehouse. There seems to be a swollen bag on the head. What are you doing? Thor frowned in confusion. Sif covered his head and pointed behind Thor, his eyes dodged a little. Hey! Thor turned around suspiciously. Ah, it's you, the descendant of the Aesir Protoss. I'm going to find you, come and rescue Asgard with us. Thor laughed and stretched out his right hand. You'd better save yourself first. Luo Bing rolled his eyes, kicked Thor back, and then summoned a door to seal the place that had been smashed open earlier. Although the Iron Gate was just a decoration for the people from Asgard, they still stayed where they were and didn't move. It hurts. Thor grinned, and now as a mortal he can still feel the pain. This guy, it's really hateful, the meow meow hammer must be out of order, doesn't it mean that only people with absolute justice can pick it up? My father is lying to me, this person is a villain. Thor angrily smashed the glass. Let me out. Let me out, I'm going back to save Asgard. The 3 Asgard warriors and the female warrior Sif on the side squatted in the corner with their heads covered honestly. The head was smashed a bit dumbfounded. I've sent those 3 people away, they're just normal people, astronomers. Phil Coulson came over with a genial smile on his face. Then Phil Coulson looked at the isolation room on the side with embarrassment on his face. Is it really good to keep them here? After all, they are the legendary gods. Have you ever seen such a weak god? It's not gods who get down on me. Luo Bing rolled his eyes in disdain. There are other reasons for keeping these guys here besides seeing them unhappy before. The reason is that Luo Bing found that it was really cool to rob the Protoss, and the weapons and equipment were so good that they had no friends. Thor was tied, and 4 people came. 5.0 Now he has tied all 5 people, and more people will come back later and give him better equipment. Sure enough, Luo Bing didn't wait too long when a destroyer robot with eyes like a flashlight came to the door. Humph, it's you who shielded the traitors from the God Realm, right? You are so brave, you dare to hide criminals, you have violated the Asgard law, and I want to punish you, said the destroyer controlled by Loki. His face changed, his flashlight-like eyes became bigger, and a laser beam directly pointed at you. He hit the spot where Luo Bing was. Wait. It's not as promised. Did you misunderstand me? Luo Bing was speechless, the base behind him was not easy to dodge, so he could only resist with a hammer. Flying into the air, Luo Bing was taken aback. Wait, isn't this a scene from my dream? No, how did I become the protagonist? Chapter 72. Chucky. The meow meow hammer collided with the laser, and a numb feeling spread to Luo Bing's body. Luo Bing didn't expect that the opponent's attack was still electrified. At the moment, his body was a little stiff. He glanced at the S.H.I.E.L.D temporary base behind him, and the whole person took the destroyer robot and flew into the distance. It is not suitable for fighting here, and it is easy to bring disaster to pond fish. The destroyer armor is huge, about 3 meters high, and has super defensive ability. His lasers can smash any known material, including Asgard's metallic URU. It can also generate a high-temperature flame, which can reach the white-hot level. The destroyer can also be shape-shifting, able to rearrange and modify the density of matter so that it can transform into other different forms, such as solids, liquids, and gases. If it were an ordinary weapon, it would be melted directly by the laser light emitted from his pupils, but the meow meow hammer was an artifact after all, so how could it compete in a short period of time? If Odin was at the helm of this armor himself, this armor would be invincible. But Loki and Immature are very. He would just go wild and rampage. Chi light cannon landed, leaving large pits in the desert. Dusty and flying sand filled the air. Luo Bing hurriedly shuttled through the desert, and when he saw the opportunity, he suddenly appeared behind the destroyer armor, and slammed into the most vulnerable joints of its body. Clang! 14 sparks flew, and the hammer collided with the body, shooting out dazzling sparks. This guy, such a strong defense. Luo Bing frowned, then disappeared again. When Luo Bing appeared again, golden Susa armor enveloped his body. Under the comparison of the golden Susa giant, the originally tall destroyer seemed to have become a younger brother. The golden sword buzzed, tearing through the air, making the sound of roar's sonic boom. The golden sword collided with the armor of the destroyer, the latter was directly swept away by a sword. Damn, what is that? Loki looked at the golden Susa in front of him with fear, and frowned. He used magic to cast his consciousness on the destroyer, and naturally he could see everything in front of the destroyer. He had never seen anything like this in the 9 realms. However, Luo Bing didn't give Loki much time to think, his body accelerated. The golden giant sword slashed across the sky and slashed towards the destroyer again. The destroyer let out a scream, huge amounts of arms detached from the body and were directly chopped off. Damn, UBD! Loki angered, and the destroyer armor quickly completed shape-shifting with a single arm. A dazzling light cannon shot out from the arm, and the dazzling light lit up the entire desert. Luo Bing teleported backwards to dodge. He wasn't sure if his Susa armor could withstand such an attack, but he was clearly not the kind of idiot who would let local skills hit him on purpose. Luo Bing with teleportation ability is too flexible. The destroyer's palm cannon and the light cannons fired by the twin pupils couldn't effectively hit the golden Susa's body at all. Although that thing has a big goal. After firing hundreds of light cannons in a row, the entire desert was bombed with holes, but the attack never reached Luo Bing once. How to fight this? I can't fight at all. Loki is not the reckless brother Thor. Knowing that the strength of the two sides is not equal, he directly grabbed the arm that was cut off from the ground and pressed it on his body forcibly. Fly into the distance. The legs of the destroyer armor are complete with shape-shifting, and the powerful light cannon jets leave a dream trail in the sky. Want to run? Luo Bing threw the hammer, and the whole person also flew up. The two of them crossed the desert, chasing after me, circling in circles in this desolate land. Humph! Loki sneered, his whole body turned flexibly, and he flew in the direction of S.H.I.E.L.D town in an instant. Compared with the flexibility of the destroyer armor, Luo Bing, who was flying by the traction of the hammer, was too passive, and he was rampant, unable to turn at all, and was quickly thrown behind him. Luo Bing fell on the spot, looked at the direction Loki was going away, and shook his head. Although the hammer in his hand can be lifted by him, it does not have a trace of divinity. It is just a powerful weapon and cannot be called a divine weapon. Luo Bing can feel that the Meow Meow hammer is self-conscious. It's just that the guy doesn't seem too happy to be his master himself. Don't try to run away in front of me. Luo Bing swung his arm, the golden hexagram writing wheel eye in the eye socket stopped spinning, the golden Susa instantly shattered and dissipated, and the whole person instantly disappeared in place. In the sky, Loki's destroyer armor is flying freely. At the moment, he is not relaxed. Looking at the flashing light spots on the ground below him, he knows that he is still within the hunting range of that person. As long as he landed on the ground, the guy would suddenly jump to his side and hit him hard on the neck. How can such a life exist in Midgard? Is this guy an Asgardian here? Loki is not easy, but fortunately that guy can't accurately locate the spatial coordinates of the fast-moving, otherwise the sky would not be a safe place. Thor. Loki's eyes lit up, and he was overjoyed when he saw the Thor 5 who had sneaked out again in the distance. As long as Thor is killed, he is the worthy lord of Asgard, and no one is qualified to take the king's position with him. Even if Odin wakes up, he has to admit that he is better than Thor. He has won. It's the destroyer. Fandral looked at the distant roaring sky. Several people were indulging in the joy of escaping from the evil Midgard stronghold, but they did not expect to encounter the destroyer armor head-on. It must be Loki sent to arrest us. What should we do? Hogun asked the surrounding companions subconsciously. Although they have never fought the destroyer, they have no weapons and equipment in their hands, and the chances of surviving facing the destroyer are very low. Fight him! Fandral pulled out the old-fashioned telephone pole by the roadside and prepared for battle. The boom destroyer fired a light cannon before it landed on the ground, directly covering the 5 people on the street. Be careful! Hogun supported Thor, who had lost his power, to dodge quickly, barely dodging the attack of the inverted beam of 780, but left a scorching wound on his waist. The passers-by in the town fled frantically, and the scene was very chaotic for a while. Swish! Luo Bing teleported to the scene. The destroyer armor took a step back subconsciously, and Loki, the manipulator armor, was thinking about the situation in front of him. I think we've misunderstood. I'm just catching Asgard criminals, not Midgard. I represent Asgard and sign a peace treaty with Midgard. Loki exclaimed. Luo Bing spat in disdain. You didn't say that just now. It's too late now. Saying that, Luo Bing raised the hammer, and the Meow Meow hammer triggered the weather changes in the clouds, and the whole person instantly rushed towards Loki in front of him. FK him, brother! Come on! Thor excitedly became a cheerleader. A few black lines hung on Luo Bing's face, who was moving fast. How can it be regarded as the illusion of a tool person again? Then, he stopped and looked at Loki next to him. Loki was about to run away when he noticed that the situation had changed and stopped. Since you just said there was a misunderstanding, how do you want to compensate me? Luo Bing asked, looking at Loki. Hey! Loki froze on the spot. It looks like you don't want to lose. Luo Bing's eyes were cold and aggressive, as if he would rush up to beat the destroyer armor in the next second. Pay back! Loki hurriedly shouted. Chapter 73. What compensation do you want? Loki asked with a frown, manipulating the destroyer armor. For him, it was a good deal to lose something to take out a troubled opponent. Asgard fought in the 9 realms, and the treasure house not only accumulated many rare treasures. He could have dismissed the Midgard with just 1 or 2 pieces. And as long as he kills Thor and becomes the king, isn't he in charge of what's in the treasury? What do you have? Luo Bing put away the hammer and eased his attitude. What do I have? Loki frowned. He thought it was just the Midgard's vision that let him say something casual. Things that might seem precious to him were of no use to him. But I didn't expect that guy to throw the problem to himself again. What should I do now? What if the amount said is too small and the other party is not satisfied? Wouldn't it be a loss for me if I said too much? However, Loki has been a royal family since he was a child, and he has no idea about the baby, so he curled his lips. Don't worry, you can choose one of the things in the Asgard treasure house. There are Asgard's treasures for tens of thousands of years, and many of them are bigger than your hands. The hammer is even more powerful. Oh! Luo Bing was a little moved. But human greed is limitless. So he turned to look at Thor. I heard that you are also a prince. Do you have a baby? You? Loki's eyes widened. He never imagined that the other party would still do such a thing, and now he felt rage in his heart, but he was still abruptly endured by him. Can't be angry, can't be angry. I definitely have. My meow meow hammer is still in your hands. As long as you help me take down Loki, you will be the hero who saved the Asgard crisis, and then you can choose 2 treasures in Asgard. Thor is also a prodigal, with a solid foundation, and he speaks boldly. Oh? Loki, right, your brother has bid for 2 artifacts, how about you? Luo Bing looked at Loki slyly. As if at the moment he was the deceitful god of mythology. Loki was speechless. He clearly knew that this was a trap, but he had no way of doing it. The opponent's force was there, and that was a trouble that he could not avoid even using conspiracy and tricks. So he can only increase the chips. Anyway, he never cared about those artifacts in Asgard. What he saw was power and the throne. 3 pieces, Loki said abruptly. Luo Bing looked at Thor again. 4 pieces. Thor reported a number without hesitation. He has been in the 9 realms for so many years, and many of the treasures he found alone have been sent to the Asgard treasure room. He has nothing to panic. 5 pieces. Thor. You're just a piece of shit right now, you don't have any power at all, and your promises can never be fulfilled. Man, he's lying to you, he can't even go back to Asgard now. Roared, playing side by side with his own thoughts. You fart. When the father wakes up, you will finish Loki. Not only will I regain my strength, but your behavior will also be punished by the father. I will give you 6 pieces. Asgard's treasure trove is free to choose. Thor shouted angrily. Drink. You. Loki was furious, knowing that wasn't the way to go. The chips between the 2 are only the Asgard treasury, and the Asgard treasury is the only one. No matter how much they add, neither of them can surpass the other. The Kingdom of Frost, roared Loki. I am the widow of the giants of Jotunheim. I can design to lure the king of the giants of Jotunheim, and then murder him. When the time comes, I will give you the entire Frost Kingdom. You become the king of the giants of Jotunheim, I become the king of Asgard, and then we will share the entire 9 realms. Loki has given Thor a condition that Thor can never do. What? Brother? Thor looked at Loki in disbelief. Shut up, yes, I was never your brother. I'm just a baby Odin snatched from the giants of Jotunheim, a proton. 39 Thor. Now you finally know why Odin has always valued you and never used me. Because I'm not his son at all. Just a tool to threaten the giants of Jotunheim. Loki yelled wildly. As if that's the reason for his crazy behavior. No. It's not like that. Thor, who knew the truth, looked at Loki in distress. There must be some misunderstanding, Loki. Thor yelled. Misunderstanding? Oh, these are all admitted by Odin. Don't be silly, Thor, you are the prince of the 9 realms, and I'm just a giant of Jotunheim bug with blue disgusting skin essence. Why are our fates so different since birth? Loki growled frantically. Loki watched this scene and smashed his tongue. Why did the good alien invasion war turn into a bitter family drama? He is not good at meddling in family dramas. Well, don't argue, each of you will give me 5 artifacts, and I will watch from the side. Luo Bing said, walked to the roadside and took a small bench from the stall, grabbed it with one hand, and slowly walked from the side. A bag of melon seeds was caught in the generated small black hole. And then banged up like that. The 2 brothers, who were already full of emotions, instantly calmed down when they heard this sentence. Glancing at each other, intense sparks shot out of his eyes. The destroyer was dispatched, and the 3 Asgard warriors had no ability to resist at all, and 2 were kicked and flew out, spitting out blood. So strong. Fondrel frowned and looked at Luo Bing. If they had weapons and equipment at hand, they might not be so embarrassed. Go back, Thor said, walking straight to the destroyer and opening his hands. Thor. The 3 Asgard warriors looked at Thor in embarrassment. Loki, my brother, stop, I can forgive you all, it's not your fault, we've been together for more than 1,000 years, we grew up together, you've always been my brother. Thor smiled bitterly, shows the truth. Shut up. Loki, overwhelmed by his anger, couldn't handle that much. If killing me can free you, then come on. However, I beg you to spare my friends. Thor said, closed his eyes, and waited quietly to die. He did not resist in the slightest. Boom. The destroyer shot Thor directly with a light cannon. Loki sneered, this is not a TV series, he wouldn't be stupid to show mercy at the last second. Thor fell to the ground, looking almost dead. There was no reaction in the body, and the whole person was roasted and smelled. Luo Bing frowned, stopped, Zhao Qian's, and put down the melon seeds in his hand. He found that he actually admired this stupid son a little bit, and it seemed a pity to let him die like this. So, Luo Bing decided to go back to stop all this. It's a pity that before he could react, the meow meow hammer lying quietly at his feet flew out. Zitzai. The clouds rolled in the sky, and a huge amount of lightning draped over Thor's body. Thor floated up from the ground, wrapped in thunder and lightning, and radiated pure electric tongue in his eyes. Thor has regained his power. Loki. Thor wielded the meow hammer, wearing armor, and the cloak behind him flew in the wind. Thor. The destroyer roared loudly, and a distant golden beam of light shot out from his eye sockets. The battle between the 2 is imminent. It turns out that I'm not the protagonist, this is what I saw in my dream. Luo Bing patted the sunflower seeds and touched his chin. Then, he looked in Thor's direction and shouted, hey, my hammer is mine, with a certificate, remember to return it after use. Chapter 74. Hearing Luo Bing's words, Thor stumbled and was almost distracted by Loki's chants. However, Raiden was originally the nemesis of the destroyer machine, not to mention Thor, who was in an explosive state of battle at the moment. After regaining his divine power, he not only returned to his previous peak, but also had some blessings from the power of Odin. Loki is not good at fighting, and the destroyer he controls cannot exert 30% of the strength of destroyer's armor at all. After more than a dozen rounds, it was directly penetrated by Thor's hammer full of lightning. Chi chi chi! Thunder and lightning raged, and the surrounding area of 100 meters was shrouded in a violent electromagnetic field. The surrounding buildings were shaken by the aftermath, and the glass on the house burst one after another. The high-voltage line on the side was also directly broken, and the power of the entire town was pulled and consumed in an instant. Boom! The destroyer's charred body fell heavily to the ground. The precise parts that make up the destroyer were violently destroyed by lightning, and the invincible destroyer became a pile of scrap iron. It was now nearly dusk, and the town that had lost its electricity was getting dark. The people from S.H.I.E.L.D. have long been attracted by this battle, standing behind Luo Bing, looking solemnly at the fallen destroyer. The power of this group of aliens has surpassed their imagination. 4 or 5 alien visitors will make a lot of noise here. According to the existing weapons and equipment, if the aliens really invade, they will not the 780 leaves room for any resistance. Fury looked solemnly at Luo Bing, who was calmly eating melon seeds. The restless heart finally relaxed gradually. Everything seems to be okay now with him, but if one day he leaves, how will they deal with these alien visitors? Roar roar roar! Thor let out a long roar. Just when he was about to die, he felt his father's call, and then woke up from the dream, instantly regaining his divine power. Not only that, Thor at the moment is stronger than ever. He has awakening the power of Odin from his father in his body, which also means that he is transforming into a real Thor, not a hammer god. Good fight! Luo Bing clapped his hands and walked towards Thor, then stretched out his hand. What? Thor wondered, now he is not hostile to Luo Bing. After all, this human also helped them resist the destroyer for a long time at the beginning. Without him, maybe he and a few friends would not be able to stop the menacing Loki. Hammer, I said you lent it to you. Luo Bing spread out his hands, looking like an honest man. Ah, but this is my hammer. Thor, Buffa, looked ugly and was speechless in his heart. I have a certificate, if you don't believe me, look at it. Luo Bing calmly took out the patent book from his pocket. That calm appearance gave everyone in S.H.I.E.L.D a headache when they saw it. You don't mean to hack my hammer, do you? Luo Bing asked contemptuously. It's obvious that you want to hack my hammer. Thor shouted angrily. Now that he has regained his powers, the irritable brother is back online, and Luo Bing is not at all cowardly in his heart. That's right, you also hacked our weapons and equipment, hand them over quickly. Fondrel shouted from the side. And mine. The other Asgard visitors stood up one after another, crusade against Luo Bing. Now that Thor is so powerful, and with his big brother backing, how can they weaken Asgard's reputation? I picked up the hammer, and I applied for a patent. As for your equipment, that's the cost of taking you to find your prince. Not only do you not thank me, but you also bite me back. I'm very sad. You aliens are so unreasonable. Luo Bing shook his head and sighed, seemingly helpless. Who is unreasonable? Can we still have a good chat? I really believe in your wickedness. You Midgards are all devils. Impossible. The Meow Meow hammer was built for me by my father himself. I can't give it to you. I'm also a reasonable person. If you can beat me, then... Boom! The 30-meter-tall golden Susa emerged from Luo Bing's body. Layers of armor are covered with the skull frame of the golden giant, and the lines of flesh and blood are clearly visible. The golden giant sword pointed directly at Thor below, and the immortal black Amaterasu flame spread over the sword body, and the surrounding air began to burn hot. Susanoo almost second stage. Semi-complete. Then what? Luo Bing held his chest with both hands, floating on the chest of the golden giant, and glanced at the crowd below with a domineering look. Gudong. Thor swallowed. Gudong, Gudong. The brothers beside him, including the goddess of war Sif, gulped wildly. Even everyone in S.H.I.E.L.D stared wide-eyed at this scene. They have never seen Luo Bing in this state, although the S.H.I.E.L.D intelligence base has mentioned golden light. But Susa at that time was not perfect, it was just the first time it was used, and it seemed far less intimidating than it is now. This is also the first time that Luo Bing has fully stimulated the power of Susanoo. The half-afternoon fight with the Loki-manipulated destroyer hadn't yet triggered this state. After an afternoon of familiarity, he found that he seemed to be able to induce a stronger state, so he gave it a try. Thor, are you intimidating me? Well, I am indeed intimidated by you. Ahaha, I want to say, it's normal, so let me change it for you, okay? I'll change it to one of the same level as the Meow Meow hammer. You know, Asgard's treasury is mostly normal items, but I know that the father has his own treasures, and the Odin treasury is full of treasures, no worse than the Meow Meow hammer. Thor laughed awkwardly. Thor at the moment sold Odin very badly. That's fine, but it has to satisfy me. Luo Bing nodded. Anyway, Meow Meow hammer doesn't listen to him, it's not very useful. The matter was settled like this, and the Asgard group of 4 did not dare to mention their equipment. What do you think? Equipment is dead, people are alive. Isn't it just a few pieces of equipment, life is more important. Thor starts roar shouting Heimdall. A few minutes later, a colorful beam of light was projected. The group, including Luo Bing, disappeared in an instant, leaving a mysterious symbol on the ground. Roar, what's the matter? Fury wiped the sweat from his brow. It's over at last. Phil Coulson shook his head, feeling that he and his party were here to make soy sauce. Recover the robot on the ground, that thing is very valuable for research. Fury waved his hand and instructed the agent around him to act immediately. But at the moment there is no ruin of the destroyer on the ground. That thing had already been taken into the Shinwei space by Luo Bing, the moment he summoned the Susa armor. How did it disappear? Did it disintegrate? Fury looked bewildered, completely confused. Chapter 75. On the top of the mountains, the wind returns to the clouds. The light golden sunlight was cast down from the lingering clouds, and the purple sky was close to the world, as if within reach. The ancient tree like a crouching dragon stood quietly between the sky and the earth, carrying huge amounts of umbrella covers since ancient times. The wind gently swayed the swing, accompanied by the faint snarling of a few fallen leaves, and the old creaking sound echoed in this vast time. Here is Asgard. This is a huge flat land. At the end of the continent that stretched for an unknown number of kilometers, waterfalls burst out from their nests and flowed into the black and mysterious starry sky. Clouds are blue and green and want to rain, and water is dank and smoky. Xianshan Kyurga is resplendent. The palaces and even the streets here are lavishly carved in gold or crystal. Maybe Luo Bing can't recognize the real names of those materials, but that stuff looks very expensive. If it wasn't for a group of people staring at him curiously, Luo Bing would really like to pry a few bricks and stones under him and put them into the Shinwei space. Middle. It's not that he is poor, it's that he is too poor. If this wealth comparison object is the legendary god's domain. Brother, are you all right? Sif looked at his brother Heimdall, and found that he still had a chill on his body, his face was pale, and the situation was very bad. I'm fine, Loki froze me with casket of ancient winters, but fortunately, I escaped. Heimdall wears golden armor and has golden eyes. That's the all-seeing eye. He could see almost any direction in the 9 realms, and was also Bifrost's Asgardian, Odin's most loyal subordinate. There were 2 dead bodies of giants of Jotunheim lying not far away. It seemed that the giants of Jotunheim had invaded the interior of Asgard, and the situation was not optimistic. Loki stole the casket of ancient winters, now the Asgard army is at war with the giants of Jotunheim. Thor, it's up to you. Heimdall looked at Thor, his voice weak. Loki. Thor roared, throwing the Meow Meow hammer and rushed directly to the distant battlefield. For Asgard! For Asgard! The 3 Asgard warriors also rushed towards the distance. Sif glanced at his brother, nodded at him, and then rushed out. Only Luo Bing and Heimdall stared blankly at the scene. Hello, young man. Heimdall looked at Luo Bing in front of him and nodded friendly. Hello. Luo Bing nodded in return. Then the 2 fell into an awkward silence. Is there a tour guide here? Luo Bing glanced left and right and asked politely. Heimdall, it's at war, young people. Did you not have a tour guide during the war? Luo Bing asked again. Heimdall's mouth twitched slightly. What's wrong with this young man? I thought it was Thor's friend, why did he speak so irritatingly? It is said that now is war, life and death. Are you here to travel? Heimdall nodded, a little angry. All the soldiers in Asgard are on the battlefield, if you're not afraid of death, maybe you can look somewhere. Okay. Luo Bing nodded and took 2 steps forward. Heimdall frowned, having no idea what the young man was thinking. Seeing him go further and further, Heimdall breathed a sigh of relief and continued to guard Bifrost. As the Asgardian of Bifrost, this is his mission, and even in the event of a war, he cannot leave here half a step. Instead, Asgard is truly in crisis if the enemy takes control of Bifrost. But Heimdall didn't expect that the young man who had just walked a few steps turned around and came over again. Heimdall looked at each other suspiciously, not knowing what he was doing again. Timid? Afraid to die? Excuse me, are there any guides here to lead the way to the battlefield? I'm sorry, they ran too fast just now, and I'm not familiar with the space nodes here. Luo Bing asked politely again. Heimdall, you young man has no end. You did it on purpose. You definitely did it on purpose. Heimdall sighed, very helpless. Asgard is not open to outsiders, only Bifrost can enter and exit here, this is not a children's paradise at all. There is no guide. Even if there are visitors from other worlds, they are invited by the father of God Odin. For a creature like Luo Bing, Heimdall has lived for so long, and it is the first time that Heimdall has seen it all over the 9 worlds. In desperation, he pointed forward. Asgard is not open to outsiders, but now the King of God is sleeping, you are Thor's friend, you have 2 choices, Either stay here and wait for the war to end, or follow this road and go straight ahead. The battlefield is ahead now that the two countries are at war. I will always observe the movements of the giants of Jotunheim clan, and please don't disturb me. Hamdar was very polite. Even though he was very dissatisfied with this very eccentric young man, he didn't say anything. After living for so long, he rarely showed his personal emotions, which are only things that immature children have. Heimdall is calm and doesn't care about the little things. To him, nothing matters except Odin and Asgard and Bifrost. Then I'll go to sleep. Luo Bing yawned, not treating himself as an outsider at all, and it was nighttime on Earth. He casually summoned a wooden door, lay on it and closed his eyes. Seeking flowers. Heimdall froze for a moment, then ignored the odd young man, his eyes glowing golden, and he continued to patrol the battlefield and the home of the giants of Jotunheim. Luo Bing really fell asleep like that. He didn't have any sense of responsibility to help Asgard defend against foreign enemies, he just came to ask for the account. This is not the Earth, and he has no time to meddle in his own business. Some hours later, the alarm on the phone in Luo Bing's pocket rang. Heimdall frowned and glanced, his forehead covered with blue veins, then fell silent again, ignoring it. Luo Bing woke up slowly. This time he didn't have a dream, he slept very peacefully, since he missed opening the lucky halo at 12 o'clock last time and got a breaking ability named Jong-san. He set it on his mobile phone. The alarm clock reminded him to add buff at 11:59 p.m. Luo Bing skillfully turned on the halo. Sign in successfully. Today's Power Senior White's Pet Squirrel Air's strong identification technique has been received. Please use it to your heart's content. Ability Introduction. What is filial piety? What is love? Do you know the greatness of maternal love? Luo Bing touched his chin and was a little flustered. He was flustered about everything about Senior Bai, but what the hell is a pet? What the hell is a powerhouse identification technique? Luo Bing turned to look at Heimdall, who was beside him, and asked suspiciously, Mr. Heimdall, are you a strong man? Heimdall is staring at the battlefield. At the moment the battle situation has reached the white hot. Before Loki received many giants of Jotunheim through Bifrost, now giants of Jotunheim are attacking the holy city. With Odin slumbering and Thor being entangled with Loki, the situation has been stalemate, but now that the giants of Jotunheim have breached the first line of defense, many Asgard warriors are injured and the situation is not optimistic. I'm just a gatekeeper. The real strong should live on the battlefield. Heimdall shook his head. He also wanted to go to the front if his mission was not important. So, what you said seems to make sense. Luo Bing nodded and disappeared in a blink of an eye. Heimdall frowned suspiciously, looked left and right, the all-seeing eye spread, and he was shocked to see Luo Bing, who was constantly flashing towards the battlefield. Space movement? What does he want to do? Heimdall frowned, surprised. He originally thought that the strange young man was just a low-level magician with a little knowledge of creation magic, but he did not expect that he actually mastered high-level space movement magic. And it doesn't seem to be chanting the spell at all. And
if you're enjoying the story so far and want to hear the next parts, don't forget to like the video. It really helps the channel grow. And if you'd like me to continue the series, drop a comment below letting me know. Your feedback and support keep these audiobooks going strong. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.